The Galactic Council chamber falls silent as human ambassador Jacob Walker strides to the podium. His footsteps echo through the cavernous hall, each step carrying the weight of Earth's decision. The assembled alien diplomats lean forward, their varied anatomies tensing with anticipation. Cleo, the Denobulan representative, narrows her multifaceted eyes, skepticism etched across her bioluminescent features. Jacob's expression is grim, his jaw set with determination. He adjusts the microphone, the small action amplified in the hushed chamber. His voice, steady and resolute, breaks the silence. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today to announce that Earth is joining the fight against the Xeraxian Empire. A collective gasp ripples through the audience. Tentacles writhe, antennae quiver, and translucent membranes flutter in shock. Earth's strict neutrality policy, maintained since joining the galactic community, shatters in an instant. Jacob continues, his words measured and deliberate. Recent Xeraxian attacks on our colonies have forced our hand. We can no longer stand idly by while our people and our allies suffer at the hands of this aggressive empire. Holographic displays flicker to life around the chamber, projecting images of devastated human outposts. Smoking craters mar once thriving settlements. The carnage is unmistakable, eliciting murmurs of sympathy from even the most stoic delegates. But know this, Jacob's voice rises, infused with fierce pride. Humanity does not enter this conflict unprepared. With a gesture, the holograms shift, revealing sleek warships and advanced weaponry. Earth's secret military buildup, hidden behind the facade of neutrality, stands exposed. Cleo's skepticism falters, her compound eyes widening as she processes the implications. During our years of neutrality, we have developed technologies that will turn the tide of this war. Our fleet stands ready, our soldiers are prepared, and our resolve is unshakable. The chamber buzzes with a mix of relief and concern. The human ambassador's words paint Earth as both savior and wild card, a powerful ally with unknown motives. Jacob leans forward, his hands gripping the edges of the podium. We propose an immediate alliance between Earth and the Galactic Council's forces. We offer not only our military might, but our tactical expertise. Together, we can end the Xeraxian threat once and for all. As Jacob steps back from the podium, the council erupts into frenzied discussion. Delegates huddle in groups, gesticulating wildly as they debate the merits of Earth's offer. Cleo finds herself reevaluating her stance on humanity, her earlier dismissal of the species replaced by a grudging respect. The head of the council rises, mandibles clicking as he calls for order. We will now vote on whether to accept Earth's offer of alliance. The implications of this decision will reshape the future of our galaxy. Choose wisely. Jacob takes his seat, his part played. Now, he can only watch as the fate of Earth's first major galactic intervention hangs in the balance. The chamber tenses, poised on the brink of a new era in interstellar relations. Humanity has declared its intent to join the fight, but will the galaxy accept their help? As the council members cast their votes, the chamber thrummed with nervous energy. Jacob watched, his heart pounding, as the tallies flickered on the holographic display. When the final count appeared, a wave of relief washed over him. The majority had voted in favor of the alliance. The head of the council raised his upper appendages, silencing the murmurs that rippled through the chamber. The council has spoken. We accept Earth's offer of alliance. Let this day mark the beginning of a new chapter in our fight against the Xeraxian Empire. Jacob exhaled slowly, allowing himself a moment of satisfaction before the weight of what was to come settled on his shoulders. As he stood to shake hands with the council members, he caught Cleo's eye. The Denobulan's earlier skepticism had given way to a look of cautious respect. "Well played, Ambassador Walker," she said, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with subtle patterns. "I hope your species' actions will match the boldness of your words." Jacob nodded grimly. We intend to prove ourselves worthy allies, Cleo. You'll see. As the council session adjourned, Jacob's comm unit buzzed. It was a priority message from Earth. Operation Prometheus was go. Thousands of light years away, on the blue-green orb of Earth, klaxons blared across military bases worldwide. The United Earth Space Force burst into action, personnel scrambling to their stations with practiced efficiency. In orbit, the UESF flagship Retribution hummed to life, its massive fusion engines glowing with nearly unleashed power. On the bridge, Captain Jack Harper surveyed the organized chaos around him. Crew members rushed to their posts, running last-minute checks on the ship systems. The view screens flickered with status reports and tactical overlays. Weapon systems online and fully integrated, Captain. Reported as XO, Commander Sarah Chun. Shield generators at full capacity. FDL drives spooled and ready. Jack nodded, a fierce pride swelling in his chest. The Retribution represented the pinnacle of human engineering and ingenuity, years of secret development hidden behind a facade of neutrality. Now, it was time to unleash its power. Excellent work, Commander, he said. Prepare for departure. We rendezvous with the Allied fleet at coordinates Delta 97 in 12 hours. As the Retribution broke orbit, other ships of the UESF fell into formation. The fleet accelerated, pushing past the edge of the solar system and into the vast expanse of interstellar space. Meanwhile, in a cavernous hangar beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Volkov stood before a gathered crowd of military officials and engineers. Behind her loomed the fruits of Project Prometheus, the Titan-class battle mech. Its gunmetal frame gleamed under the harsh lights, weapon ports overflowing along its arms and shoulders. Gentlemen, Elena began, her voice carrying a hint of a Russian accent, I present to you the future of ground warfare. Standing 50 meters tall and equipped with our most advanced energy weapons, the Titan is a match for anything the Zyraxians can field. She gestured to the mech's cockpit. Neural interface controls allow for unprecedented response times. The pilot becomes one with the machine, able to react as quickly as thought itself. The assembled officials murmured appreciatively, already envisioning the impact these war machines would have on the battlefield. At UESF headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Marcus Steele pored over star charts and tactical readouts. His weathered face was set in lines of concentration as he planned humanity's first major offensive against the Zyraxian Empire. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Enter, he called. Ambassador Jacob Walker strode in, looking weary but determined after his return from the Galactic Council. Admiral Steele, he greeted. I hear congratulations are in order. The Council was impressed by your record. Steele waved off the compliment. Save the congratulations for when we've won this war, Ambassador. We've got our work cut out for us. Jacob nodded, taking a seat across from the Admiral. Indeed, I've been meeting with our new allies, coordinating the integration of our forces into their command structure. It's complicated. Politics always is, Steele grunted. He tapped the control, and a holographic display sprang to life between them. This is our first target, the Epsilon Eridani system. It's a major Zyraxian logistics hub. If we can take it out, we'll cripple their supply lines in this sector. Jacob leaned forward, studying the swirling representation of stars and planets. A bold move. The Zyraxians won't expect us to strike so deep into their territory so quickly. Exactly, Steele said, a predatory gleam in his eye. We'll show them what humanity is capable of. As Earth's forces mobilized, news of their entry into the war spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 100 worlds, aliens gathered around communication devices, discussing this latest development with a mixture of hope and trepidation. On the Zyraxian-controlled world of Nexus Prime, General Krosthal received the news with cold fury. His clawed hands clenched, crumpling the datapad that had delivered the report. "Arrogant humans," he snarled to his assembled officers. "They think they can challenge the might of the Zeraxian Empire? We will crush them like we've crushed all who stood against us." He stabbed a talon at the planet's surface, visible through the viewport. "Double the work shifts in the mines. I want every scrap of resources this miserable rock can provide. We'll need it all to fuel our war machine." Below, on the scarred surface of Nexus Prime, Zeraxian overseers cracked energy whips, driving the native Nexians to work ever harder. The slaves' mournful cries echoed across the barren landscape, a stark counterpoint to the determined preparations of their would-be liberators light years away. As the UESF fleet hurtled through space towards its rendezvous point, as the Titan mechs were loaded onto massive transport ships, as diplomats and generals finalized their plans, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had thrown its hat into the ring. Now, everyone waited to see if they could live up to their bold claims. As the galaxy held its breath, humanity wasted no time improving its mettle. Within hours of the Council's vote, Earth's forces were on the move, their carefully laid plans unfolding with clockwork precision. Admiral Marcus Steele stood on the bridge of the UESF Retribution, his weathered face illuminated by the flickering holographic displays. The massive view screen before him showed a sea of stars, punctuated by the sleek forms of Earth's most advanced warships. Alongside them, the very designs of their new alien allies created a diverse armada, united in purpose. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Commander Chen announced, her voice crisp and professional. Steele nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Then let's not keep the Zyraxians waiting. Signal the fleet. We jump in 5 minutes." As the countdown began, tension filled the air. Crew members triple-checked their stations, fingers hovering over controls. In the hangar bays below, pilots climbed into their fighters, running through final system checks. At exactly 0700 hours Earth Standard Time, space itself seemed to ripple. In a brilliant flash of light, the combined Earth Galactic Council fleet vanished from Earth orbit, only to reappear moments later in the Epsilon Eridani system. The Zeraxian defenders, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of such a massive force, scrambled to respond. Their orbital platforms, designed to repel small raiding parties, found themselves woefully outmatched. "All ships weapons free," Steele commanded, his voice calm but tinged with steel. "Show them what we can do." The Retribution's main cannon roared to life, a lance of concentrated energy that cut through a Zeraxian cruiser like paper. Around them, Earth's ships unleashed a barrage of firepower that lit up space with a dazzling, deadly light show. Captain Jack Harper, commanding the stealth frigate Shadow, watched the initial exchange from the outskirts of the battle. "Cloak and gauge," he informed his crew. "Prepare for silent running. We're going in." The Shadow and its sister ships seemed to fade from view, their advanced stealth technology rendering them invisible to Zeraxian sensors. As the main battle raged, Harper's squadron slipped behind enemy lines, undetected. On the bridge of the Zeraxian flagship, General Krosthal snarled in frustration. "How did they amass such a force without our knowledge?" he demanded, his clawed hands clenching the arms of his command chair. "Unknown, General," his second-in-command replied, mandibles clicking nervously. "Their weapons. They're unlike anything we've encountered before." Krosthal's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. Something was wrong. The enemy's movements seemed too coordinated, too precise. It was as if they could predict the Zeraxian fleet's every move. His suspicions were confirmed moments later, when alarms blared across the ship. "General, we've lost contact with our rear guard." On the interface, Krosthal watched in disbelief as his ship's formations crumbled. Somehow, the enemy had struck at the heart of their communications network, leaving the Zeraxian fleet fragmented and vulnerable. Back on the Shadow, Captain Harper allowed himself a grim smile. "Target neutralized," he reported to Admiral Steele. Their fleet command structure is in chaos. Steele's voice crackled over the comm. Excellent work, Captain. Rejoin the main force. It's time to press our advantage. As the space battle raged above, the surface of Epsilon Eridani's primary world became a war zone. Drop ships pierced the atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot from the friction of entry. Among them were massive, specially designed carriers, each bearing a precious cargo, the Titan-class battle mechs. Colonel Sarah Morales felt the familiar surge of adrenaline as her drop ship touched down. The moment the bay doors opened, she was moving, her neural link with her Titan activating instantly. The massive war machine rose from its crouched position, towering over the landscape. "All units, form up," Morales commanded, her voice steady despite the excitement coursing through her. "Remember your training. These Iraxians have never faced anything like us before." The ground trembled as the Titans advanced, their massive footsteps leaving craters in the alien soil. Ahead, Ziraxian ground forces scrambled to mount a defense, but their vehicles and battle suits looked almost comically small in comparison to the human war machines. Morales raised her Titan's arm, the built-in plasma cannon humming with power. "Targets acquired. All units. Engage at will." The battlefield erupted in chaos as the Titans unleashed their firepower. Ziraxian defensive lines crumbled under the onslaught, their weapons barely scratching the Titans' advanced armor. In orbit, Admiral Steele watched the ground assault's progress with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. Perhaps too smoothly, a part of his mind warned. That warning proved prescient as new alarms sounded across the bridge. "Admiral," Commander Chin called out, her voice urgent. "We're detecting a massive energy buildup on the planet's surface." Steele's eyes narrowed as he studied the incoming data. "It's some kind of superweapon," he realized aloud, "and it's powering up the fire." Without hesitation, he opened a channel to the fighter squadrons. "This is Admiral Steele. We need an immediate strike on these coordinates. Whatever the Zyraxians are powering up down there, we can't let it fire." Lieutenant John Maverick Mitchell acknowledged the order, his voice crackling over the comm. "Roger that, Admiral. Maverick's Marauders are on it." The sleek Earth fighters peeled away from the main battle, diving towards the planet's surface. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky, creating a deadly obstacle course for the pilots to navigate. "Stay sharp, people," Maverick called out to his squadron. "We've got one shot at this. Make it count." As they approached the target, a massive, ominous-looking cannon that seemed to pulse with energy, Maverick made a split-second decision. "Switch to EMP warheads," he ordered. "Let's short this basset out." The fighters screamed over their target, releasing their payload with pinpoint accuracy. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a spectacular flash, the cannon's energy field collapsed. The weapon fell silent, its threat neutralized. In orbit, Admiral Steele allowed himself a moment of relief before refocusing on the battle at hand. "All ships, this is the Admiral," he broadcast. "The enemy's secret weapon is down. Push forward. Let's end this." The UESF Retribution led the charge, its advanced engines propelling it past its allies as it bore down on the remnants of the Ziraxian fleet. Weapons fired in a continuous stream, each shot finding its mark with deadly precision. Overwhelmed and outgunned, the Ziraxian ships began to break formation, turning tail and fleeing into the depths of space. Admiral Steele watched them go, knowing that this victory was just the beginning. As the last enemy ships disappeared from sensors, a new message came through. It was from Earth. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. Humanity's show of force had changed the game, and now the galaxy wanted to talk. Steele exchanged a look with Commander Chen. They both knew that while the battle was won, the war was nowhere near the end. And somewhere out there, The Zyraxians were already planning their counterattack. But for now, they had a victory to savor. As the dust settled on the Epsilon Eridani system, the full impact of humanity's entry into the galactic war began to ripple across the stars. Within hours, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the new player on the cosmic chessboard. Ambassador Jacob Walker found himself at the center of attention as he entered the Grand Council chamber. Alien representatives from 100 worlds turned to regard him with a mix of curiosity, admiration, and thinly veiled apprehension. "Ambassador Walker," the Arcturian counselor greeted him, her luminescent skin pulsing with barely suppressed excitement. "Your people's performance in battle was most impressive." Jacob inclined his head, choosing his words carefully. "We're honored to fight alongside our new allies, Counselor. Humanity stands ready to do its part in this conflict." As the session began, it quickly became clear that Earth's advanced military capabilities had not gone unnoticed. The Council proposed a deeper integration of human forces into the existing command structure, a move that would give Earth unprecedented influence in galactic affairs. Meanwhile, aboard the UESF Retribution, Admiral Marcus Steele pored over intelligence reports with growing concern. The holodisplay before him painted a grim picture. A massive concentration of Zyraxian forces gathering in the Proxima Centauri system. "They're preparing for a major counteroffensive," Steele muttered, his weathered face creased with worry. "And they've chosen our doorstep to stage it from." Commander Chin leaned in, studying the tactical overlay. "Sir, if they launch from Proxima Centauri, they could reach Earth in a matter of days." Steele nodded grimly. "Exactly. We need to move fast." He opened a secure channel to Earth's Global Defense Initiative. "This is Admiral Steele. I need to speak with Dr. Elena Volkov immediately." Within moments, the holographic image of Dr. Volkov materialized on the bridge. Her usually immaculate lab coat was wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes betraying long hours of work. "Admiral," she greeted him, "I assume this isn't a social call." "I'm afraid not, Doctor. How soon can we have a full battalion of Titans deployed to Mars?" Volkov's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly. "We've been working around the clock. Give me 72 hours, and I'll have them on the launch pad." "You have 48, Steele replied. "The Zyraxians are massing at Proxima Centauri. Earth needs those Titans as our first line of defense." As the call ended, Steele turned to Chun. "Contact Colonel Morales. Tell her to prepare her team for immediate deployment to Mars." Across the solar system, Earth's military machine roared to life. Recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. Training facilities operated nonstop, and shipyards worked at a feverish pace to expand the UESF fleet. In a secret briefing room deep within UESF headquarters, Admiral Steele laid out his plan to a select group of human and alien military leaders. The holographic display showed the Proxima Centauri system in intricate detail. "A two-pronged attack," Steele explained, manipulating the display to highlight key strategic points. "The Retribution will lead a frontal assault here, drawing the bulk of the Zyraxian forces. Meanwhile, a covert team will infiltrate their supply depot on this moon, crippling their logistics." A Kravak general, his insectoid features unreadable, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "A bold strategy, Admiral. But who could lead such a dangerous mission?" Steele allowed himself a small smile. "I have just the man for the job." Hours later, Captain Jack Harper stood before his newly assembled team in the hangar bay of the stealth frigate Shadow. Beside him stood Sergeant Mike Thompson, a grizzled Earth Special Forces veteran, and Clara, a lithe Kravak whose compound eyes regarded the humans with a mix of curiosity and grudging respect. "Listen up," Harper addressed the group, his voice carrying easily in the cavernous space. "Our mission is simple but critical. We infiltrate the Zyraxian supply depot, plant charges at key points, and get out before they know what hit them. As Harper continued the briefing, outlining the specifics of their high-stakes operation, another discovery was unfolding light years away on Nexus Prime. Dr. Aaron Morales wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the readouts from their deep crust scanner. The harsh Nexus Prime sun beat down on the research outpost, but it was excitement, not heat, that caused his heart to race. "This can't be right," he muttered, rechecking the data. "Sophia, are you seeing this?" His research partner, Dr. Sophia Chun, leaned over his shoulder, her eyes widening as she took in the readings. "My God," she breathed. "Is that what I think it is?" Aaron nodded, a mix of awe and trepidation in his voice. "An energy signature unlike anything we've ever seen. And it's old, incredibly old." As the implications of their discovery sank in, Aaron reached for the comm unit. "This is Dr. Morales on Nexus Prime. I need to speak with Admiral Steele immediately. We've found something that could change everything." The transmission raced across space, carrying with it news of an ancient artifact buried deep within Nexus Prime, a discovery that would add a wild card to an already volatile situation. As Earth's forces prepared for the looming confrontation at Proxima Centauri, a new imperative emerged. Secure the artifact before the Zyraxians could harness its power. Admiral Steele, upon receiving the transmission, felt the weight of command settle even more heavily on his shoulders. He had mere hours to devise a strategy that would defend Earth, strike at the heart of the Zyraxian counteroffensive, and secure a potentially game-changing artifact. As he began to formulate plans for the newly christened Operation Phoenix, Steele knew that the coming days would test humanity and its allies like never before. The battle for Proxima Centauri loomed, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. The battle for Proxima Centauri loomed, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. Admiral Steele's voice rang out across the bridge of the UESF Retribution. "All ships, battle stations. Operation Phoenix commences now." The vast expanse of space erupted into chaos as human and allied vessels clashed with the Zyraxian fleet. Energy weapons lanced through the void, while swarms of fighters engaged in deadly dogfights. Admiral Steele stood at the helm, his eyes darting between tactical displays as he orchestrated the assault. "Gamma Squadron, execute Maneuver Epsilon 3, he commanded. "Kravac cruisers, focus fire on their left flank." The battle unfolded like a deadly dance, with Steele expertly weaving Earth's advanced ships through the Zyraxian formations. Allied vessels followed suit, their unique capabilities complementing the human tactics. Meanwhile, on the rocky surface of Proxima Centauri B's moon, Captain Jack Harper led his covert team towards the Zyraxian supply depot. They moved swiftly through the low gravity, their stealth suits rendering them nearly invisible against the barren landscape. "Movement ahead," Clara whispered, her compound eyes detecting a Zyraxian patrol. Sergeant Thompson readied his weapon. "I've got the left flank." The team engaged silently, neutralizing the threat before it could raise the alarm. As they approached the depot's outer perimeter, Harper activated his tactical overlay. "Remember, our primary objective is to cripple their logistics. Plant charges at these key points." Back in the space battle, Colonel Sarah Morales felt a familiar surge of adrenaline as her drop ship plummeted through Proxima Centauri B's atmosphere. The planet's surface grew rapidly in her view screen, a mix of harsh red terrain and Zyraxian fortifications. "Titans, prepare for hot drop," she announced over the comm. The moment their ships touched down, the massive battle mech surged forward, their weapons already firing. Morales' Titan strode through the chaos, its plasma cannon vaporizing Zyraxian tanks with each shot. "Push forward," she ordered. "We need to secure that ridge before they can reinforce." The ground shook with each step of the Titans, their advanced weaponry tearing through the Zyraxian defenses. For a moment, it seemed like nothing could stand against Earth's mechanical giants. Then, without warning, The sky above them lit up with energy. Massive beams lanced down from orbit, carving furrows in the earth and forcing the Titans to scatter. Evasive maneuvers, Morales shouted, her Titan narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Command, we've got a problem. The Zyraxians have some kind of orbital defense system. In Earth orbit, Dr. Elena Volkov received the urgent transmission from Proxima Centauri. Her fingers flew across holographic controls, activating Earth's new defense network. Project Prometheus is online, she reported. Let's hope it's enough. As the battle raged across multiple fronts, Ambassador Jacob Walker found himself in an equally intense conflict within the Galactic Council chambers. Alien representatives argued fiercely about humanity's role in the war effort. The humans have proven themselves more than capable, the Arcturian counselor insisted. We must grant them greater authority in our strategic planning. The Tellarite representative slammed a fist on the table. And risk them becoming the dominant power? We cannot allow it. Walker stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Counselors, I assure you, Earth seeks only to be an equal partner in our alliance. Our goal is the defeat of the Zyraxians, nothing more. Even as he spoke, Walker knew the political landscape was shifting. Earth's rapid rise was causing ripples throughout the galactic community, and he would need all his diplomatic skills to navigate the turbulent waters ahead. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Aaron Morales stared in awe at the ancient artifact they had unearthed. Its surface pulsed with an otherworldly energy, defying all known laws of physics. The power output is incredible, Sophia breathed, her eyes wide as she studied the readings. If the Zyraxians get their hands on this. Aaron nodded grimly. We need to contact Admiral Steele immediately. This could change everything. As if in response to the escalating conflict, a new player entered the stage. At the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Through the breach emerged sleek, crystalline ships unlike anything seen before. On the bridge of the Retribution, alarms blared. Sir, Commander Chen called out, we're detecting a new fleet entering the system. Energy signatures don't match anything in our database. Admiral Steele's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The newcomers' ships move with impossible grace, their technology clearly far beyond even Earth's most advanced vessels. Open a channel, Steele ordered. Let's see who our new guests are. As the battle for Proxima Centauri reached its crescendo, with the fate of multiple worlds hanging in the balance, the arrival of the mysterious Xel'Naga added a new layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. The next few moments would determine not just the outcome of this engagement, but potentially the course of the entire galactic war. As the mysterious Xel'Naga fleet emerged from the spatial rift, Admiral Steele's tactical mind raced through potential scenarios. Before he could open communications, alarms blared across the bridge of the Retribution. Sir, multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Commander Chen's voice cut through the chaos. It's the Zyraxian Dreadclaw Legion. Steele's expression resolute as he watched the tactical display. Massive Zyraxian warships dropped out of hyperspace, their imposing silhouettes dwarfing even the largest human vessels. The balance of power had shifted in an instant. All ships, execute maneuver Omega, Steele ordered, his voice steady despite the dire situation. Fall back to rally point Epsilon 9. The UESF fleet began a coordinated retreat, maneuvering with practiced precision. Steele watched as his ships formed a defensive screen, covering each other's withdrawal while maintaining a cohesive formation. Sir, what about the ground forces? Chun asked, concern evident in his voice. They'll have to hold their positions for now, Steele replied grimly. We can't risk the entire fleet trying to extract them. On the moon of Proxima Centauri B, Captain Jack Harper and his team faced their own crisis. The Zyraxian supply depot loomed before them, a fortress of metal and energy shields far more formidable than their intel had suggested. "Damn it," Harper muttered, crouched behind a rocky outcropping. "This isn't going to be as easy as we thought." Sergeant Mike Thompson, the team's heavy weapons specialist, hefted his pulse rifle. "Nothing ever is, Cap. What's the play?" Before Harper could respond, a barrage of energy fire erupted from hidden emplacements around the depot. The team scattered, diving for cover as the air sizzled with deadly plasma. "Gunner, suppress that left flank," Harper shouted over the din of battle. Thompson leaned out, his weapon spitting a stream of high-velocity rounds. But as he shifted position, a Xeraxian sniper found its mark. Thompson grunted in pain as an energy bolt seared through his armor, leaving a smoking hole in his shoulder. "Man down!" Clara hissed, her multifaceted eyes scanning for threats as she dragged Thompson to safety. Harper gritted his teeth. This was bad. They were outgunned, outmaneuvered, and now a man down. "Fall back," he ordered. "We need to regroup and reassess." As the team retreated, Clara Eschidna's form seemed to shimmer and blend with the lunar landscape. "I will scout ahead," she clicked. "Perhaps I can find a weakness in their defenses." Harper nodded, knowing the Kravak's natural camouflage abilities made her the ideal choice for reconnaissance. "Be careful," he cautioned. "We'll tend to Gunner and prepare for a second approach." Meanwhile, on the surface of Proxima Centauri B, Colonel Sarah Morales watched in dismay as the sky lit up with deadly energy beams. Her Titan battalion, once seemingly unstoppable, now scattered across the red terrain seeking cover. "All units, defensive positions." Morales barked into her comm. "Use the terrain for cover and hold your ground." The massive battle mechs hunkered down, their advanced armor barely withstanding the onslaught from the orbital defense system. Morales' own Titan shuddered as a near-miss carved a molten furrow in the ground beside her. "Engineering team," she called out, "I need options on taking down that defense grid. We're sitting ducks out here." As her forces dug in, using the planet's rugged landscape to shield themselves from the relentless barrage, Morales knew they were in for a long, brutal fight. Back in Earth orbit, Dr. Elena Volkov's laboratory buzzed with frantic activity. Holographic displays flickered with data streams from across the galaxy, but one transmission demanded her immediate attention. "Dr. Volkov." Aaron Morales' voice crackled through the comm, tinged with a mix of excitement and fear. "The artifact. It's active. We're detecting energy pulses unlike anything we've ever seen." Volkov's eyes widened as she processed the implications. "Send me all your data immediately," she ordered. "I'll inform Admiral Steele. This could change everything." As she prepared to transmit the urgent information to the Retribution, Volkov couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of a discovery that could alter the course of the war, if they could only harness its power in time. At the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, staring at the alien fleet before him. The Xelnaga ships gleamed like living crystal, defying human understanding of spacecraft design. "Open a channel on all frequencies," Hawkins instructed his communications officer. "Let's see if we can make contact." As the linguist and xenoanthropologist prepared to face perhaps the greatest challenge of his career, he couldn't help but wonder, would these mysterious aliens prove to be saviors or yet another threat in an already chaotic galaxy? The battle for Proxima Centauri had entered a new phase, with Earth's forces fighting on multiple fronts against a formidable enemy. As Admiral Steele regrouped his fleet and considered his next move, he knew that the actions of Harper's covert team, Morales' embattled Titans, and Hawkins' diplomatic mission could all prove crucial in the hours to come. With the Xeraxian Dreadclaw Legion pressing their advantage and the enigmatic Xelnaga waiting in the wings, the fate of not just the star system, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The next moves made by both sides would determine whether humanity and its allies would emerge victorious or face a crushing defeat at the hands of their relentless foes. As the chaotic battle unfolded across multiple fronts, Admiral Marcus Steele's mind raced through potential strategies. The arrival of the Xeraxian Dreadclaw Legion had drastically shifted the balance of power, but Steele was not one to concede defeat easily. His eyes narrowed as he focused on a classified section of the tactical display. "Commander Chun, initiate Protocol Quantum," Steele ordered, his voice steady and resolute. Chen's eyes widened in recognition. "Sir, are you certain? The system hasn't been fully tested in combat conditions." Steele nodded grimly. "We're out of options. Activate the quantum entanglement beacons." Throughout the Proxima Centauri system, hidden devices hummed to life. These beacons, the result of years of covert research by Dr. Elena Volkov's team, created an instantaneous communication network that linked Earth's forces across vast distances. Steele felt the change immediately. Data from every corner of the battlefield flooded into the Retribution systems, providing real-time intelligence that had been impossible mere moments ago. "All units, prepare for synchronized offensive," Steele commanded, his words reaching every human ship and ground force simultaneously. "Execute Operation Synapses." On the moon of Proxima Centauri B, Captain Jack Harper received the Admiral's orders through a sudden burst of clarity in his comm link. The quantum network had cut through the interference that had been plaguing their communications. "Team, we have new intel," Harper announced, gesturing for his squad to gather around. Clara's reconnaissance paid off. "There's a weakness in the depot's power grid." Sergeant Thompson, his shoulder hastily bandaged, grunted in acknowledgement. "About time we got some good news." "What's the plan, Cap?" Harper pulled out a series of small, cylindrical devices. "EMP charges. We hit their grid, take down the defenses, and then we go in hard and fast." As the team moved into position, Harper couldn't help but marvel at the precision of their coordinated movements. The quantum network allowed them to adjust their strategy on the fly, reacting to the Xeraxians' countermeasures almost before they happened. Meanwhile, on the surface of Proxima Centauri B, Colonel Sarah Morales watched in awe as her tactical display came alive with new information. The quantum network fed her Titan battalion a constant stream of data on enemy positions and vulnerabilities. "All Titans form up on me," Morales ordered, her voice filled with revitalized commitment. "We're going to punch a hole in their orbital defense grid." The massive battle mech surged forward, their movements perfectly synchronized. Morales led the charge, her Titan's plasma cannon targeting a critical node in the Xeraxian defense system. "Fire at will," she commanded. A barrage of concentrated fire erupted from the Titan battalion, overwhelming the Xeraxian defenses at their weakest point. The sky above them flickered as sections of the orbital grid went dark. In orbit, Admiral Steele watched the battle unfold with growing satisfaction. The UESF fleet, now operating as a single, cohesive unit thanks to the quantum network, executed a series of complex maneuvers that caught the Xeraxian Dreadclaw Legion off guard. "All ships, execute pincer movement Alpha," Steele ordered. "Let's show these Xeraxians what Earth can do." The human fleet split into two groups, each one flanking the Xeraxian forces. Caught between the hammer and anvil of Earth's ships, the once-feared Dreadclaw Legion found itself outmaneuvered and outgunned. As the space battle raged, Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins stood on the bridge of the Olive Branch, his eyes fixed on the enigmatic Xel'Naga fleet. The quantum network had provided him with a wealth of linguistic and cultural data, allowing him to piece together a rudimentary form of communication. "This is Lieutenant Commander Hawkins of Earth," he transmitted, his words carefully chosen. "We seek peaceful dialogue and mutual understanding." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, a burst of light emanated from the lead Xel'Naga ship, coalescing into a shimmering hologram of an alien being unlike anything Hawkins had ever seen. The Xel'Naga's voice reverberated through the ship, a mix of musical tones and guttural sounds that the translation software struggled to interpret. We observe, we judge. You face our ancient enemy. Prove your worth, and we may assist. Hawkins' mind raced with the implications. He opened a secure channel to Admiral Steele, relaying the Xel'Naga's message and his own analysis. Sir, I believe we have an opportunity here. If we can demonstrate our capabilities, the Xel'Naga might be willing to lend their support. Steele's response was immediate. Understood, Commander. I'm authorizing you to negotiate. Offer them access to our quantum entanglement technology in exchange for their support. We need every advantage we can get. As Hawkins began the delicate process of diplomacy, the battle continued to rage across the Proxima Centauri system. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Aaron Morales and his team worked feverishly to unlock the secrets of the ancient artifact. The energy readings are off the charts, Sophia exclaimed, her eyes wide as she studied the data streaming across her holographic display. This device. It's not just a power source. It's a node in a vast network. Aaron nodded, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. If we can figure out how to activate it, we might be able to create a defensive shield unlike anything we've ever seen. This could protect not just Earth, but all our colonies. As he prepared to transmit their findings to Admiral Steele, alarms blared throughout the research facility. Aaron's blood ran cold as he read the incoming message. Xeraxian reinforcements have entered the system, he announced, his voice grim. Led by Warlord Kronthak himself. The artifact pulsed with energy, as if responding to the growing tension. Aaron knew that they were now in a race against time. If they could unlock the artifact's power before Kronthak's forces arrived, they might stand a chance. If not, everything they had fought for could be lost. As the battle for Proxima Centauri reached its crescendo, with Earth's forces fighting on multiple fronts and the fate of the galactic realm hanging in the balance, Admiral Steele prepared to make his next move. The quantum network had given them an edge, but with Kronthak's fleet approaching and the power of the ancient artifact still untapped, the outcome remained far from certain. With Kronthak's fleet approaching and the power of the ancient artifact still untapped, the outcome remained far from assured. But Steele's mind was already racing ahead, formulating a new strategy to turn the tide. Commander Chin, relay new orders to all fronts, Steele commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. It's time to put our quantum advantage to the test. As the quantum entanglement network hummed with activity, the various theaters of war began to shift in Earth's favor. On the moon of Proxima Centauri B, Captain Jack Harper's team moved with renewed purpose, their steps silent against the lunar dust. There, Clara clicked softly, her camouflage form barely visible against the rocky terrain. The power conduits converge at that junction. Harper nodded, signaling his team forward. They advanced swiftly, EMP charges at the ready. As they approached the Xeraxian supply depot, the quantum network fed them real-time data on enemy patrols and defense systems. Thompson Ramirez, take the left flank, Harper whispered into his comm. Chun and I will plant the charges. Clara, keep watch. The team moved like ghosts, their actions perfectly synchronized. Within minutes, they had surrounded the critical power junction. Harper's hands moved swiftly, placing the EMP devices with practiced precision. Charges set, he reported. Detonating in 3, 2, 1. A silent pulse rippled through the air. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, section by section, the lights of the Xeraxian depot began to flicker and die. Direct hit, Harper grinned. Let's move in and secure the objective. Meanwhile, on the surface of Proxima Centauri B, Colonel Sarah Morales felt her Titan-class battle mech vibrate with power. The quantum network had transformed her battalion into a single, cohesive unit, each massive machine moving in perfect harmony. "All units, form up on me," Morales commanded, her voice filled with commitment. "We're going to punch through their defenses and establish a beachhead." The Titans surged forward, their heavy footsteps shaking the alien soil. Morales led the charge, her mech sensors providing a real-time map of the Zeraxian defensive grid. "Target those shield generators," she ordered, highlighting key points on the shared tactical display. "Concentrated fire on my mark." Fire! A barrage of energy weapons erupted from the Titan battalion. The Zeraxian shields flickered and failed under the precise assault. As gaps appeared in the enemy defenses, Morales pressed the advantage. "Infantry units, move up," she called out. "We've got your backs. Let's secure that foothold." In orbit, Admiral Steele watched as the battle unfolded across multiple fronts. The quantum network allowed him to process and respond to developments almost instantaneously. As Kronthak's reinforcement fleet entered the system, Steele's mind was already formulating countermeasures. "All ships, execute Maneuver Delta 7, he ordered. "Let's give our Xel'Naga friends a demonstration of what we can do." The UESF fleet moved with unprecedented coordination, executing a complex series of maneuvers that caught the Zeraxian forces off guard. Steele's flagship, the Retribution, led a daring charge straight for Kronthak's massive world-breaker dreadnought. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving targeting data from the Xel'Naga vessels. They've identified weak points in the world-breaker's defense systems." Steele's eyes narrowed. "Transmit that data to all ships. Concentrate fire on those points. Let's show Kronthak what happens when he underestimates humanity." As the space battle intensified, events on Nexus Prime took an unexpected turn. Major John Shepard and his task force had just touched down when the quantum network alerted them to an incoming threat. "Zeraxian Special Ops," Shepard growled, checking his weapon. "They must have gotten wind of the artifact. Move out, people. We can't let them get their hands on it." Shepard's team raced through the winding tunnels of the excavation site, the sounds of distant gunfire growing louder. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with the Zeraxian infiltrators. "Take cover," Shepard shouted, diving behind a fallen pillar as energy bolts sizzled past. The cavern erupted into chaos, the air filled with the sharp crack of human weapons and the high-pitched whine of Zeraxian energy guns. Shepard's team fought fiercely, using their superior knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the alien intruders. In the heart of the complex, Dr. Aaron Morales worked feverishly, his eyes darting between holographic displays as he struggled to unlock the artifact's secrets. "This is incredible," he muttered, fingers flying over the controls. "The energy output is off the charts. If we can harness this." Suddenly, the device pulsed with blinding light. Morales stumbled back, shielding his eyes. As his vision cleared, he saw the artifact hovering above its pedestal, emitting a low, resonant hum. It's asking for input," Morales realized, his heart racing. "A genetic key. Human DNA?" Without hesitation, he pressed his palm against the shimmering surface of the artifact. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a wave of energy surged through him, and the device began to transform. As the battles raged across the Proxima Centauri system and beyond, the quantum entanglement network continued to hum with activity. Earth's forces, once on the brink of defeat, now fought with renewed vigor and unprecedented coordination. But with Kronthak's world breaker bearing down on them, and the threat to Earth itself looming on the horizon, the war was just the beginning. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of Proxima Centauri, but potentially the future of humanity among the stars. Stars! Admiral Marcus Steele's eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display before him. The battle for Proxima Centauri raged on multiple fronts, But a new threat loomed on the horizon. Intelligence reports indicated a group of cloaked Xeraxian vessels making their way towards the Sol system. Steele's mind raced, weighing the risks and potential outcomes. After a moment of intense deliberation, he made his decision. "Commander Chin, get me a secure link to Earth Command," he ordered, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. As the quantum entanglement network established a connection, Steele outlined his strategy to the assembled military leaders. "We'll keep the bulk of our forces here in Proxima Centauri. We can't afford to lose the ground we've gained. However, I'm dispatching a special task force back to Earth." The holographic faces of Earth's military command nodded in agreement. One of them, a stern-faced woman with the insignia of a fleet admiral, spoke up. "Who will lead this task force, Marcus?" Steele's lips curved into a slight smile. "I'm promoting Colonel Jessica Morales to Rear Admiral. Her experience and tactical acumen make her the ideal choice for this mission." Within hours, a sleek flotilla of Earth's most advanced stealth ships prepared for departure. Newly minted Rear Admiral Jessica Morales stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UESF Shadowblade, as final preparations were made. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her XO announced. Morales nodded, her expression determined. "Engage FDL drives. Let's show these Xeraxians what Earth's best can do." As the task force vanished into the depths of space, the battle for Proxima Centauri intensified. On Nexus Prime, Major John Shepard's team found themselves in a desperate firefight with Xeraxian Special Ops. Shepard ducked behind a fallen pillar as energy bolts sizzled overhead. "Delta Team, flank left," he shouted into his comm. "Charlie, provide covering fire." The cavern echoed with the sound of gunfire and alien weaponry. Shepard's team moved with practiced efficiency, slowly pushing the Xeraxians back. In the heart of the complex, Dr. Aaron Morales worked feverishly to unlock the artifact's secrets. The device hummed with power, its surface pulsing with an otherworldly light. "It's working," Morales exclaimed as he pressed his palm against the artifact. A surge of energy coursed through him, and the device began to transform. Suddenly, waves of energy pulsed outward from the artifact. The Xeraxian weapons sputtered and died, their advanced technology rendered useless. Shepard seized the opportunity. "All units, push forward. Take them down!" Outside the complex, Colonel Sarah Morales led her Titan-class battle mech battalion in a final assault on the Xeraxian command center. The massive war machines thundered across the alien landscape, their weapons blazing. "Target those shield generators," Morales ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Infantry, move up and secure the breach points." The Xeraxian defenses crumbled under the combined assault. As Morales' Titan smashed through the main gates of the command center, she caught sight of the alien commander attempting to flee. "Not today," she muttered, bringing her mech's massive arm down to block the escape route. In orbit, Admiral Steele's fleet engaged Warlord Kronthak's Worldbreaker. The UESF Retribution, its hull shimmering with newly integrated Xel'Naga shielding, led the charge. "All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates," Steele commanded, highlighting weak points in the Worldbreaker's defenses. "Let's show Kronthak what happens when he underestimates humanity." The space around the massive Xeraxian dreadnought lit up with weapons fire. Earth's ships moved in perfect coordination, their attacks precise and devastating. As the battle raged, Ambassador Jacob Walker stood before the Galactic Council, his voice passionate as he presented evidence of Xeraxian war crimes. "Distinguished representatives," Walker began, his tone urgent, "the Xeraxian threat is not just to Earth, but to the entire galaxy. We stand here today as a front line against their aggression. Will you stand with us?" One by one, alien representatives rose to pledge their support. Within moments, orders were sent, and Allied reinforcements began pouring into the Proxima Centauri system. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Volkov monitored the activation of the experimental deep space defense platforms. The AI-controlled weapon systems came online, their advanced sensors immediately detecting the approaching cloaked Zeraxian ships. "We've got multiple contacts," Volkov reported to Earth Command. "The platforms are engaging." In the vast emptiness of space between Earth and Mars, silent explosions blossomed as the defense platforms struck their hidden targets. Aboard the UESF Shadowblade, Rear Admiral Jessica Morales received the update from Earth. "All ships, prepare for combat," she ordered. "We're about to crash a party." As news of the battle spread across human space, a wave of support swept through the colonies. Recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers, and civilian industries worked around the clock to support the war effort. In the Xel'Naga flagship, the alien leaders observed the unfolding events with growing interest. Their decision made, they opened a channel to Admiral Steele. "Your species has proven its worth," the Xel'Naga representative intoned. "We offer you knowledge. Use it wisely." As data streams of advanced technology flooded Earth's networks, the tide of battle began to shift. But the war was just getting started. In the caverns of Nexus Prime, the orbit of Proxima Centauri, and the outskirts of the Sol system, humanity fought on, their future hanging in the balance. Balance. In the caverns of Nexus Prime, the artifact's energy pulsed with increasing intensity, bathing the chamber in an otherworldly glow. Major John Shepard's team, their weapons still hot from the recent firefight, secured the perimeter of the artifact chamber. Dr. Aaron Morales worked feverishly at the ancient console, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Shepard, we're picking up multiple Zeraxian signatures converging on our position," one of the soldiers reported, eyes fixed on his tactical display. Shepard nodded grimly. "Hold the line. We need to buy the doctor more time." As if in response to their dire situation, the artifact suddenly emitted a high-pitched whine. Dr. Morales stumbled back, shielding his eyes as a blinding light erupted from the device. "It's happening!" he shouted over the din. "The genetic key is working." A massive surge of energy exploded outward from the artifact, washing over the humans in the chamber. Shepard felt a strange tingling sensation, but otherwise remained unharmed. The same couldn't be said for the approaching Zeraxian forces. Outside the complex, the alien troops suddenly found their weapons malfunctioning. Energy rifles sputtered and died, while personal shield generators flickered and failed. The Zeraxian advance ground to a halt as confusion and panic spread through their ranks. In orbit, Admiral Marcus Steele watched in awe as the energy wave expanded rapidly, engulfing the entire planet and spreading into space. On his tactical displays, he saw Zeraxian ships suddenly losing power, their weapons going offline and shields failing. "All ships, this is Admiral Steele," he broadcast across the fleet. "The Zeraxians are vulnerable. Press the attack." The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. The UESF Retribution led the charge, its newly integrated Xel'Naga shielding shimmering as it absorbed enemy fire. Steele focused his attention on the massive form of the World Breaker, Warlord Kronthak's flagship. "Target their main power core," Steele ordered. "Let's end this." On the surface of Proxima Centauri B, Colonel Sarah Morales felt her Titan-class battle mech shudder as the energy wave passed through it. For a heart-stopping moment, she feared her own systems would fail. Instead, she watched in amazement as the Zeraxian defensive grid before her collapsed. "All units, advance!" she commanded, her voice filled with fierce dedication. "The enemy is vulnerable. Take that command center." The Titan battalion surged forward, their massive feet shaking the alien soil. Morales led the charge, her mech's weapon systems locked onto the now-exposed Zeraxian stronghold. As battles raged across the Proxima Centauri system, Rear Admiral Jessica Morales and her task force emerged from FDL on the outskirts of the Sol system. Her tactical officer's voice cut through the tense silence on the bridge of the UESF Shadowblade. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple cloak signatures approaching Earth's defense perimeter." Morales opened her mouth to issue orders, but before she could speak, a familiar energy wave washed over her ship. On the main view screen, she watched in amazement as the cloaked Zeraxian vessels suddenly shimmered into view, their stealth systems failing. "Well, I'll be damned," Morales muttered. Then louder, "All ships, engage those targets. Coordinate with Earth's defense platforms. Let's send these bastards packing." As the artifact's energy field continued to spread at faster-than-light speeds, its effects rippled across the galaxy. On countless worlds under Zeraxian control, oppressed populations found themselves suddenly free of their technological shackles. Revolts erupted as slaves turned on their now vulnerable masters. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Jacob Walker received a priority communication from Earth Command. As he listened to the report, a smile spread across his face. "Esteemed representatives," he addressed the assembled aliens, his voice filled with nearly unleashed excitement. "I've just received word of a major development in our war against the Zeraxians. An ancient artifact, activated by human hands, has turned the tide of battle." Murmurs of interest and surprise rippled through the chamber. Walker pressed his advantage, presenting holographic displays of the artifact's effects and the subsequent Zeraxian losses. "The time has come for us to unite," he declared. "Together, we can end the Zeraxian threat once and for all." One by one, representatives of various alien races rose to pledge their support. As Walker watched, he realized that humanity's position in the galactic community had just changed forever. Back in the Proxima Centauri system, Admiral Steele received a priority transmission from the Xel'Naga flagship. The alien's voice resonated through the bridge of the Retribution. "Admiral Steele, we have observed the activation of the Nexus Prime artifact with great interest. This technology was created by our ancestors to combat the Zeraxian threat eons ago. Your species has proven its worth by awakening it." Steele's mind raced with the implications. "Are there more of these artifacts?" "Indeed," the Xel'Naga confirmed. "A network of such devices exists throughout the galaxy. We are prepared to share our knowledge of their locations and functions." As Steele processed this information, another transmission cut through the comms. It was a galaxy-wide broadcast from Warlord Kronthak himself, his voice filled with rage and desperation. "All Zeraxian forces, converge on the Proxima Centauri system. We will crush these humans and their allies in one final battle." Steele's eyes narrowed as he considered the challenges and opportunities presented by this new development. The tide of battle had shifted, but the war was far from finished. With Kronthak gathering his forces for a massive confrontation and the tantalizing possibility of activating more artifacts, the conflict was entering a new, crucial phase. The Admiral turned to his communications officer. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command and all our allied leaders. We need to formulate a new strategy and fast." As Steele began outlining his bold plan to dispatch elite teams to activate other artifacts, he knew that the decisions made in the coming hours would shape not just the outcome of the war, but the future of humanity among the stars. Admiral Steele's eyes narrowed as he processed the implications of the Xel'Naga's revelations. A network of artifacts scattered across the galaxy, each capable of turning the tide against the Zeraxian threat. The possibilities were staggering. "Communications. Patch me through to Earth Command and all Allied leaders," he ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "It's time to initiate Operation Starfall." Within hours, the plan was set in motion. Major John Shepard stood in the hangar bay of the UESF Retribution, surveying his team as they prepared to board the Shadow Hawk. A sleek stealth frigate gleaming, with newly integrated Zelnaga technology. Dr. Era Morales triple-checked his equipment, muttering calculations under his breath. Beside him, Clara, the Kravak infiltrator, moved with fluid grace as she secured her weapons. "Remember," Shepard addressed the squad, "our primary objective is to locate and activate the artifact on Kravak's Prime. Stealth is paramount. We go in quiet, we get the job done, and we get out." As the Shadowhawk disengaged from the Retribution's docking bay, Admiral Steele's voice crackled over the comms. "Godspeed, Major. The fate of humanity rests on your success." The frigate's engines flared to life, and in a blink, they vanished into the void of space, cloaking technology rendering them invisible to Zeraxian sensors. Back on the bridge of the Retribution, Steele turned his attention to the massive holographic display showing the Proxima Centauri system. Hundreds of ships, both human and alien allies, moved into position. "All ships, prepare for engagement," Steele commanded. "Let's give Warlord Kronthak a battle he won't soon forget." As if on cue, space erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire. The Battle of Proxima's Edge had begun, a chaotic dance of destruction that would serve as the perfect cover for Operation Starfall. On the surface of Proxima Centauri B, Colonel Sarah Morales felt the ground shake beneath her Titan-class battlemech as she led her battalion towards the Zeraxian Command Center. The once impenetrable fortress now lay exposed, its defenses crippled by the artifact's energy wave. All units pushed forward. Morales barked into her comms. "Take that command center intact. We need whatever intel they have in there." The Titans advanced, their massive frames dwarfing the scattered Zeraxian troops who futilely attempted to mount a defense. Morales' mech smashed through the main gates, servos whining as she brought its massive arm down on a Zeraxian war machine. Inside the command center, Morales and her team worked quickly to secure vital data cores. As she sifted through the alien intelligence, her eyes widened. "Steele, are you getting this?" she transmitted, her voice tight with excitement. "We've got locations on multiple Zeraxian strongholds. Potential artifact sites. In the Sol system, Rear Admiral Jessica Morales stood in the control center of Earth's new Aegis defense grid. Holographic displays showed a web of satellites and defense platforms encircling the planet, a fusion of human ingenuity and Zelnaga technology. "Bring Aegis online," she ordered, her fingers dancing across the control interface. "Let's make sure Earth is ready for any surprises Kronthak might have in store." As Operation Starfall unfolded across multiple fronts, the Shadowhawk emerged from FDL on the outskirts of the Kravak system. Major Shepard leaned forward in his command chair, studying the holographic representation of their target. "Kravak's Prime," he murmured, "heavily fortified, crawling with Zeraxian troops. This isn't going to be easy." Clara's voice was cool and confident. "No Zeraxian defense is impenetrable, Major. We will find a way." The Shadowhawk slipped past the outer defense grid, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Zeraxian sensors. As they approached the massive military complex housing the suspected artifact, Shepard felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. "Prepare for insertion," he ordered. "Dr. Morales, you're with me. Clara, take point. Let's find that artifact and turn the tables on these Zeraxian bastards." As the team infiltrated the complex, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. Zeraxian troops, equipped with experimental shielding technology, stood guard at key checkpoints. "This complicates things," Dr. Morales whispered, his eyes fixed on his scanner. "Their shields are partially resistant to the Nexus Prime disruption field." Shepard's mind raced, formulating a new strategy on the fly. "Clara, can you bypass their defenses?" The Kravak nodded, her alien features set in persistence. "Give me 2 minutes." As Clara worked her infiltration magic, Shepard's calm crackled to life. Admiral Steele's voice, tense and urgent, filled his ear. "Major, we've got a situation. Long-range sensors have picked up a massive Zeraxian fleet emerging from uncharted space. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Shepard's blood ran cold. "Understood, Admiral. We'll double our efforts here." As the team pressed deeper into the Zeraxian complex, the urgency of their mission burdened immensely upon them. With each step, they knew the fate of humanity hung in the balance, the looming threat of the mysterious Zeraxian overlord casting a shadow over their hard-won victories. Victories. The looming threat of the mysterious Zeraxian overlord cast a shadow over their hard-won progress. Shepard's calm crackled again, this time with Admiral Steele's voice urgent and filled with tension. "Major, we've got a critical situation. Long-range sensors have picked up a massive Zeraxian fleet emerging from uncharted space. It's unlike anything we've encountered before." Shepard's expression resolute. "Understood, Admiral. We'll double our efforts here." "See that you do, Major," Steele replied. "The importance of activating that artifact has just increased tenfold." Steele out. Shepard turned to his team, his eyes scanning their determined faces. "You heard the Admiral. We need to move faster. Clara, what's our status on those defenses?" The Kravak infiltrator's fingers danced across her hollow interface. "Almost there, Major. Give me 30 more seconds." Dr. Morales fidgeted with his scanner, his brow furrowed. "The energy readings are getting stronger. We must be close to the artifact chamber." As Clara worked her infiltration magic, the team heard heavy footsteps approaching from an adjacent corridor. Shepard raised his hand, signaling for silence. The footsteps grew louder, accompanied by the distinct hum of energy weapons powering up. "Contact," Shepard whispered, raising his rifle. "Get ready." The air shimmered as a group of Zeraxian soldiers rounded the corner, their forms partially obscured by experimental shielding technology. Shepard's eyes widened as he recognized the distinctive crimson markings on their armor. "Crimson Talon," he hissed. "Clara, we need that bypass now." The Kravak's eyes narrowed in concentration. "Done!" As the words left her mouth, the security systems around them flickered and died. Shepard didn't waste a second. He burst from cover, his rifle spitting a concentrated burst of plasma rounds. The Crimson Talon soldiers reacted with inhuman speed, their shields absorbing the first volley. Clara moved like a shadow, her stealth suit rendering her nearly invisible as she flanked the enemy squad. Her vibroblade flashed in the dim light, finding gaps in the Zeraxian's armor with deadly precision. Dr. Morales, despite his scientific background, proved himself no slouch in combat. He deployed a series of microdrones, their erratic flight patterns confusing the Zeraxian targeting systems. The close-quarters battle was intense and brutal. Shepard's tactical expertise shone as he coordinated their efforts, calling out targets and maneuvering the team to exploit every advantage. Clara's stealth abilities proved invaluable, her surprise attacks sowing chaos among the enemy ranks. As the last Crimson Talon fell, Shepard surveyed the aftermath. "Everyone okay?" Clara nodded, wiping her blade clean. "Unharmed, Major." Dr. Morales let out a shaky breath. "I'm all right, but those weren't ordinary Zeraxian troops. Their reflexes, their coordination. It was unlike anything I've seen before." "Agreed," Shepard said, reloading his weapon. "We need to move fast. If these enhanced troops are here, it means we're close to our objective." The team pushed forward, navigating through the maze-like complex. As they approached a massive set of doors, Dr. Morales' scanner began to emit a high-pitched whine. "This is it," he announced, excitement evident in his voice. "The artifact chamber is just beyond these doors." Shepard nodded, keying his comm. "Admiral Steele, We've reached the artifact chamber, preparing to breach and activate. Before Steele could respond, a new voice cut through the comm channel. It was deep, resonant, and filled with an otherworldly authority that sent chills down Shepard's spine. "Attention, insignificant creatures," the voice boomed. "I am Zarkov, overlord of the Xeraxian Empire. Your feudal resistance ends now. Surrender immediately and hand over control of the artifact network, or face total annihilation." Shepard exchanged alarmed glances with his team as the message continued. "Know this, humans and your pitiful allies. We have long known of the artifact's existence. Only our genetic incompatibility has prevented us from harnessing their power. But no longer will these relics deny us our destiny. Surrender now, or watch as your worlds burn." The transmission cut off, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Shepard's comm crackled again, this time with Admiral Steele's voice. "Major, you heard the Overlord. The stakes have just risen exponentially. I'm initiating Protocol Omega. We're evacuating key colonies and consolidating our forces. Your mission is now more critical than ever. Activate that artifact at all costs." "Understood, Admiral," Shepard replied, his voice grim. He turned to his team, seeing the weight of their responsibility reflected in their eyes. "You heard the man. Let's make this count." With a nod to Clara, Shepard positioned himself by the chamber doors. The Kravak's fingers flew over her hollow interface, bypassing the final security measures. As the massive doors began to slide open, Shepard raised his weapon, ready for whatever challenges awaited them inside. The fate of humanity, and indeed the entire galaxy, now rested on their ability to activate the artifact and turn the tide against the Xeraxian onslaught. As they stepped into the chamber, the air humming with ancient energy, Shepard knew that the next few moments would shape the course of history. As they stepped into the chamber, the air humming with ancient energy, Shepard knew that the next few moments would shape the course of the war. The artifact pulsed with an otherworldly glow, its intricate patterns shifting and realigning as they approached. Dr. Morales rushed forward, his scanner beeping frantically as he began to interface with the alien technology. "It's incredible," he breathed, fingers flying across his datapad. "The energy output is off the charts. If we can just dash." A deafening explosion rocked the chamber, cutting off Morales' words. The far wall crumbled, revealing a squad of Crimson Talon soldiers led by a towering Xeraxian commander. "Protect the doctor!" Shepard shouted, diving for cover as plasma bolts seared the air around them. Clara vanished in a shimmer of light, her stealth systems engaging as she maneuvered to flank the enemy. Shepard laid down suppressing fire, his rifle spitting superheated projectiles at the advancing Xeraxians. Dr. Morales worked feverishly, sweat beading on his brow as he raced to activate the artifact. "Almost there," he muttered. "Just a few more seconds." The chamber erupted in chaos as more Xeraxian troops poured in. Shepard's team fought with desperate intensity, knowing that failure here meant the end of everything they'd fought for. Suddenly, the artifact flared to life, a wave of energy pulsing outward. The Xeraxian weapons sputtered and died, their shields flickering and failing. Shepard seized the moment, leading a counterattack that drove the stunned enemies back. As the last Crimson Talon fell, Shepard's comm crackled to life. Admiral Steele's voice cut through the static, urgent, and commanding. "Major, your position's been compromised. We're implementing an immediate extraction. Captain Harper and his team are en route. Hold your ground until they arrive." Shepard acknowledged the order, then turned to his team. "Barricade the entrances. We need to hold this chamber at all costs." As they fortified their position, the distant sound of heavy weapons fire echoed through the complex. The Xeraxians were regrouping, preparing for another assault. Dr. Morales worked frantically at the artifact's control interface, his eyes wide with excitement and fear. Major, I'm downloading crucial data about the artifact network. This could be the key to everything. Clara materialized beside them, her stealth suit deactivating. Zeraxian reinforcements are mobilizing throughout the facility. We have minutes at most before they breach our defenses. Shepard nodded grimly, checking his weapon's charge. Then we make every second count. Doctor, how much longer? Just a few more minutes, Morales replied, his fingers flying across the holographic display. This data, it's beyond anything we've seen before. The implications are staggering. The chamber shook as a massive explosion rocked the complex. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling as the Zeraxian assault intensified. Clara, take point at the main entrance, Shepard ordered. I'll cover the secondary access. Doctor, the moment that download is complete, we move. The next few minutes were a blur of constant action. Shepard and Clara fought with ruthless efficiency, their weapons never silent as wave after wave of Zeraxian troops attempted to breach their position. The artifact's energy field fluctuated wildly, creating pockets of disruption that added to the chaos of the battle. Just as their ammunition began to run low, a new sound cut through the din of combat. The distinctive whine of human dropship engines grew louder, accompanied by the staccato rhythm of heavy cannon fire. "This is Captain Harper to Major Shepard," a voice crackled over the comm. "Cavalry's here. Sir, prepping for hot extraction on your signal." Relief washed over Shepard, but he kept his voice steady. "Copy that, Captain. We're pinned down in the artifact chamber. Main entrance is a no-go. Advise you breach through the east wall." "Roger that, Major. Stand by for fireworks." Seconds later, the eastern wall of the chamber exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, Shepard saw the welcome sight of Alliance Marines pouring in, their weapons blazing. "Doctor, time to go?" Shepard shouted, providing covering fire as Morales disconnected from the artifact. The team fought their way through the breach, Zeraxian plasma bolts sizzling past them as they ran. Captain Harper's dropship hovered just beyond, its ramp lowered and waiting. As they sprinted the final meters, Shepard felt the heat of a near miss on his back. He turned, firing his last few rounds to cover their retreat. Clara grabbed his arm, pulling him aboard as the dropship's engines roared to life. "All aboard!" Harper called from the cockpit. "Hold on to something. This ride's about to get bumpy." The dropship rocketed away from the facility, weaving through a hail of anti-aircraft fire. Shepard stumbled to the cockpit, gripping the back of Harper's seat as he watched the chaos unfold around him. "Sit rep, Captain," he demanded. Harper's hands danced across the controls, his face grim. "It's a madhouse out there, Major. The Zeraxians have launched a massive offensive across multiple systems. Admiral Steele's redirected most of our fleet to intercept their armada." As if to punctuate his words, a Zeraxian cruiser exploded in the distance, torn apart by Alliance fire. Shepard watched as waves of fighters clashed in the space around them, the battle for Krovax Prime raging in full force. "We've got new orders," Harper continued. "We're to rendezvous with the Retribution ASP. Apparently, the Admiral's got something big planned." Shepard nodded, his mind racing with the implications of what they'd discovered. As the dropship accelerated towards the waiting Alliance fleet, he knew that the war had entered a new, even more desperate phase. The artifact data they'd retrieved could be the key to turning the tide, but at what cost? And with the Zeraxian overlord now fully committed to the fight, how much time did they have left? As the dropship docked with the Retribution, Shepard steeled himself for the challenges ahead. Whatever Admiral Steele had planned, he knew it would push them all to their limits. The fate of humanity, and indeed the entire galaxy, now hung in the balance. As the Retribution's hangar bay doors closed behind them, Shepard and his team stumbled onto the deck, exhausted but alive. Captain Harper's dropship settled onto its landing struts, its engines powering down with a whine. "Major Shepard," a voice called out. Admiral Steele strode across the hangar, his face a mask of iron will. "I need you and Dr. Morales in the war room immediately. We have a situation." Shepard nodded, gesturing for Morales to follow. As they hurried through the ship's corridors, the deck plates vibrated beneath their feet, a testament to the ongoing battle outside. In the war room, a holographic display showed the unfolding chaos around Krovax Prime. Steele wasted no time with pleasantries. "Doctor, I understand you transmitted data from the artifact. What can you tell us?" Morales stepped forward, his eyes alight with excitement despite his fatigue. "Admiral, the artifact network is far more extensive than we ever imagined. If fully activated, it could create a disruption field that would render most advanced technology inoperable across vast swathes of space." Steele's eyes narrowed. "And the Zyraxians?" "Their technology would be equally affected," Morales confirmed. "But there's more. The network seems to be tied into the very fabric of space-time. Activating it could have unforeseen consequences." Before Steele could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. A tactical officer's voice rang out. "Admiral, the Void Reaver is advancing on our position." The holographic display shifted, showing the massive Zyraxian flagship bearing down on them. Its hull seemed to absorb incoming fire, energy weapons dissipating harmlessly against its surface. Steele's mind focused. "It's time! Initiate Project Prometheus." A hush fell over the war room. Shepard looked at the Admiral, a question in his eyes. "It's a weapon of last resort, Major," Steele explained, his voice low. "A device capable of generating a localized black hole. We're about to find out if it works." The Retribution shuddered as it maneuvered into position. On the display, a new icon appeared, representing the Prometheus device. As the Void Reaver closed in, energy building along its weapon ports, Steele gave the command. "Activate Prometheus." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, space itself appeared to warp and twist. A pinpoint of absolute darkness bloomed between the two ships, rapidly expanding. The Void Reaver's advance halted as it was caught in the gravitational pull. But something was wrong. The black hole's effect was spreading faster than predicted, its tendrils of gravitational distortion reaching out across space. Alarms blared as nearby Alliance ships struggled against the pull. "Admiral," Morales shouted, his eyes wide with realization. "The black hole is interacting with the artifact network. It's causing a cascading activation." On the display, points of light began to flare across the star map, representing dormant artifacts suddenly coming to life. The disruption field expanded rapidly, engulfing entire star systems in its wake. "Shut it down," Steele ordered, but it was too late. The process had become self-sustaining. The war room erupted into chaos as reports flooded in from across Alliance space. The expanded disruption field was wreaking havoc on both sides of the conflict, disabling ships and causing dangerous spatial anomalies. Amidst the pandemonium, a new signal cut through the noise. "This is Lieutenant Commander Hawkins. Admiral, we've made contact with the Vishari. They're absorbing the energy from the anomalies." Shepard watched in awe as the holographic display showed bioorganic Vishari ships moving through the affected areas, seemingly unaffected by the chaos around them. "Hawkins," Steele barked. "What's their game?" "Sir, they're offering assistance. They have technology that might be able to stabilize the anomalies, but they want access to our artifact data in exchange." Steele's eyes met Shepard's, the weight of the decision heavy between them. With a nod from the Major, Steele made his choice. "Make the deal, Hawkins. We need all the help we can get." As the situation continued to unfold, Dr. Morales worked feverishly at a console, coordinating with Dr. Volkov on Earth to integrate the incoming Vishari data. "We might be able to create a stabilization field," Morales muttered, his fingers flying across the interface. "If we can harness the artifact's power while counteracting the negative effects." Shepard turned his attention back to the tactical display. The Void Reaver was heavily damaged, drifting in space, but a new threat loomed. Massive Xeraxian reinforcements were appearing on long-range scans, converging from multiple vectors. Admiral Steele stood at the center of the war room, his face illuminated by the swirling holographic chaos before him. He took a deep breath, his mind racing through possibilities. "Major Shepard," he said, his voice cutting through the din, "I need you to assemble a strike team. We're going to turn this mess to our advantage." As Shepard nodded and turned to leave, the ship rocked with another spatial distortion. The battle for Earth's survival, and indeed the fate of humanity and all alien species, was entering a new phase. The artifacts were awakening, alliances were shifting, and the very fabric of space-time hung in the balance. Balance. The artifacts were awakening, alliances were shifting, and the very fabric of space-time hung in the balance. Admiral Steele's eyes narrowed as he processed the flood of incoming data. The Void Reaver, once an unstoppable juggernaut, now drifted through space, its hull breached and systems failing. He saw an opportunity amidst the chaos. "All ships," this is Admiral Steele. "The Void Reaver is crippled but not out. I want a strike force to pursue and finish it off. The rest of you, prepare for incoming Xeraxian reinforcements." As the orders echoed through the comm channels, Shepard felt the deck plates vibrate beneath his feet. The Retribution's engines roared to life, maneuvering into position. "Major," Steele called, his voice cutting through the din of the war room, "I need you on the bridge. We're about to enter a new phase of this war." Shepard nodded, following the Admiral as they made their way through the ship's corridors. Emergency lights pulsed, casting an eerie red glow over the rushing crew members. On the bridge, a massive view screen displayed the unfolding battle. The Void Reaver limped away, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. A contingent of Alliance ships peeled off in pursuit, weapons blazing. Shepard's attention was drawn to a brilliant flash of light from the planet's surface. Krovax Prime seemed to pulse with energy, massive discharges erupting from the activated artifact. "Sir," a comms officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Harper's extraction team. They're clear of the atmosphere, but reporting heavy debris fields." Steele nodded grimly. "Get them back to the fleet as we'll need every asset we have for what's coming." As if on cue, long-range sensors lit up with new contacts. The Xeraxian reinforcements had arrived, their numbers dwarfing the Allied fleet. "Admiral," Dr. Morales interjected, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "The Artifact Network. It's initiating a cascading activation sequence. If my calculations are correct, we're on the verge of a full network power-up." Steele's mind raced, weighing the potential benefits against the unknown risks. "Doctor, I need options. How can we control this?" Before Morales could respond, another alert blared through the bridge. Lieutenant Commander Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. "Admiral, the Vishari are offering assistance. They say they can help stabilize the anomalies, but they want access to our artifact data." Steele exchanged a look with Shepard, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. "Make the deal, Hawkins. We need all the help we can get." As Hawkins relayed the agreement, the view screen shifted to show bioorganic Vishari ships moving through the affected areas of space. They seemed to absorb the energy from the anomalies, their hulls pulsing with an otherworldly light. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the Xeraxian fleet is deploying into attack formation. They'll be in weapons range in minutes. Steele's eyes hardened as he surveyed the holographic battlefield. A direct confrontation would be suicide, but the spatial anomalies created by Project Prometheus gave him an idea. All ships, this is Admiral Steele. We're going to use these anomalies to our advantage. Form up on the following coordinates. We're creating a defensive barrier. As the Allied fleet maneuvered into position, Bashari's ships, equipped with newly developed stabilization field generators, took up key positions. The generators hummed to life, creating pockets of stable space amidst the chaos. Major Shepard, Steele said, turning to face him. I need you to lead a special task force. Work with Dr. Morales, Dr. Volkov, and the Bashari scientists. Find a way to control that artifact network when it fully activates. It might be our only chance to turn this war around. Shepard nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. As he turned to leave the bridge, the view screen lit up with weapons fire. The first wave of the Ziraxian assault had begun. The battle for Earth's survival, and indeed the future of the stars, was entering its most crucial phase. As Shepard made his way to the research lab, he could feel the ship shudder beneath his feet. The Retribution's point defense systems roared to life, filling space with a web of defensive fire. In the lab, Dr. Morales and Dr. Volkov were already hard at work, their fingers flying across holographic interfaces. A group of Bashari scientists huddled around a strange, pulsating device that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Major, Dr. Morales called out as Shepard entered. We think we've found a way to interface with the artifact network, but we need to act fast. The full activation sequence has already begun. As Shepard approached the workstation, a new alert blared through the ship's speakers. The battle outside was intensifying, and time was running out. The destiny of the universe now rested on their ability to harness the power of an ancient alien network, while the greatest space battle in human history raged around them. The future of the cosmos now rested on their ability to harness the power of an ancient alien network, while the greatest space battle in human history raged around them. Shepard's eyes darted between the holographic displays, taking in the rapidly unfolding situation. Dr. Morales and Dr. Volkov worked feverishly, their fingers dancing across the interfaces as they integrated the Bashari data. Major, Dr. Morales called out, his voice tense with urgency. We've identified a potential method to interface with the artifact network, but it's going to require a direct neural connection. The risks are... Before he could finish, the ship rocked violently. Admiral Steele's voice crackled over the intercom. All hands, brace for impact. Ziraxian reinforcements have entered the system. Shepard steadied himself against a nearby console as the Retribution's engines roared to life. Through the viewports, he could see the rest of the Allied fleet maneuvering into position, using the spatial anomalies as cover against the incoming Ziraxian onslaught. The comm system buzzed with a flurry of transmissions as Admiral Steele coordinated the defense. All ships, form up on these coordinates. We're going to use these anomalies to our advantage. Create a defensive barrier. As the Allied fleet repositioned, Bashari ships equipped with newly developed stabilization field generators took up key positions. The generators hummed to life, creating pockets of stable space amidst the chaos. Shepard turned back to the research team. What's our timeline on controlling that network? Dr. Volkov looked up from her work, her face etched with concern. The activation sequence is accelerating. We have hours at most before full power-up. The ship shuddered again as the Ziraxian fleet opened fire. The view screen showed a web of energy weapons fire impacting against the spatial anomalies, creating a dazzling light show of destructive power. Admiral Steele's voice cut through the chaos once more. Major Shepard, I need you to lead a special task force. Work with our scientists and the Bashari. Find a way to control that artifact network when it fully activates. It's our only chance to turn this war around. Shepard nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. Understood. Sir, we'll need a secure location to continue our work. There's a nearby asteroid that should provide enough cover, Steele replied. I'm dispatching a shuttle to transport your team immediately. As Shepard and the research team prepared to depart, reports flooded in from across the battlefield. Colonel Sarah Morales' voice crackled over the comm, reporting successful engagements on Proxima Centauri B. Her adapted tactics for the Titan-class battle mech battalion were proving highly effective against Zeraxian ground forces. The shuttle ride to the asteroid was tense, with occasional flashes of weapons fire visible through the viewports. As they touched down, Shepard and the team quickly set up their temporary research station, the relative safety of the asteroid's position allowing them to focus on their critical work. Hours passed as they worked tirelessly, the sounds of battle a constant reminder of the stakes. Suddenly, Dr. Morales' eyes widened as he stared at his display. Major, we've got something. We think we can interface with the network using a combination of human neural patterns and Vishari bioorganic technology. Shepard leaned in, studying the complex diagrams on the screen. What's the catch? Dr. Volkov's face was grim as she replied. It's extremely dangerous and completely untested. We need a volunteer to physically connect with an activated artifact. The neural strain could be catastrophic. Before Shepard could respond, a priority transmission came through from Admiral Steele. The Admiral's face appeared on the main view screen, lines of exhaustion etched deeply into his features. Major, we're running out of time. The Zyraxians have launched a massive, coordinated attack. Our defensive line is beginning to falter. Whatever you're working on, we need it now. Shepard looked at the research team, then back to Steele. Sir, we have a potential solution, but it requires a direct neural interface with an artifact. It's incredibly risky. Steele's eyes narrowed as he processed the information. Understood. I'm calling for volunteers among our highest-ranking officers. We can't afford to lose this opportunity. As the transmission ended, Shepard felt a weight settle in his chest. He knew what he had to do. Turning to the team, he said, Prepare the interface. I'm going in. Dr. Morales began to protest, but Shepard cut him off with a raised hand. There's no time to argue. I have the most experience with alien tech, and I've already activated 2 artifacts. It has to be me. As the team rushed to prepare the makeshift interface, reports continued to pour in. The Void Reaver had been destroyed, providing a much-needed morale boost. However, the spatial anomalies protecting the Allied forces were beginning to destabilize under the intense Zeraxian bombardment. Shepard lay back on the improvised neural link platform, electrodes attached to his temples and chest. Dr. Volkov's voice was tight with tension as she began the activation sequence. Remember, Major, once you're connected, try to focus on redirecting the network's energy. If you can control it, we might be able to turn the tide of this battle. As the interface powered up, Shepard felt a tingling sensation at the base of his skull. The sensation grew stronger, becoming a pulsing rhythm that seemed to resonate with his very thoughts. The world around him began to fade, replaced by a swirling vortex of light and energy. In the physical world, alarms blared as the Zeraxian assault intensified. Admiral Steele's voice echoed through the research station. All ships, hold the line. We need more time. Shepard barely heard the commotion. His consciousness expanded, touching the vast network of artifacts spread across the galaxy. He could feel the raw power coursing through the system, waiting to be unleashed. With every ounce of his will, he focused on that energy, trying to bend it to his purpose. As Shepard grappled with the alien technology, the future of the cosmos hung in the balance. The battle raged on around the asteroid, the outcome uncertain. The success or failure of this risky move would determine the course of the war and the future of humanity in the galactic community. Shepard's consciousness expanded further, his mind grappling with the vast network of artifacts spread across the galaxy. The raw power coursing through the system threatened to overwhelm him, but he held on, focusing every ounce of his will to bend it to his purpose. Suddenly, a burst of information flooded his mind. The artifact network wasn't just a weapon. It was a repository of knowledge left behind by an ancient civilization that had once fought against the Zyraxians. Shepard's eyes widened as he realized the potential of this discovery. "Admiral Steele," he called out, his voice strained from the neural interface. "I've found a way to selectively target and disable Zyraxian technology on a massive scale. But we need to physically access multiple artifacts to fully activate and synchronize the network." Steele's face appeared on the nearby view screen, lines of exhaustion etched deeply into his features. "Understood, Major. We'll form a strike team immediately. But we need to buy more time." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the research station. The Zyraxian assault had intensified, and the spatial anomalies protecting the Allied forces were beginning to destabilize under the relentless bombardment. Steele's voice crackled over the comm system. "All ships, hold the line. Deploy the remaining prototype stabilization field generators. We need to reinforce our defensive position." Outside, the battle raged on. Vashari ships, coordinated by Lieutenant Commander Hawkins, moved into strategic positions. Their bioorganic hulls pulsed with energy as they absorbed and redirected the excess power from the collapsing spatial anomalies, buying precious time for the Allied forces. In the Proxima Centauri system, Colonel Sarah Morales received new orders. Her voice, filled with purpose, echoed through the comm channels of her Titan-class battle mech battalion. "All units, prepare for immediate counteroffensive. We're hitting their supply depots and command nodes. Let's give those Zyraxian bastards something to worry about planetside." The massive mechs thundered across the battlefield, their weapon systems primed and ready. Using intelligence provided by the defector Vex Corps, they struck at key Zyraxian positions with surgical precision. The surprise attack threw the enemy ground operations into disarray, forcing them to divert resources from their space-based assault. Back on the asteroid research station, Dr. Morales and Dr. Volkov worked feverishly to stabilize Shepard's neural connection. The Major's vitals fluctuated wildly as he processed the immense data stream from the artifact network. "We're losing him," Dr. Volkov shouted, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "The neural strain is too much." Dr. Morales grabbed a nearby injector filled with experimental Vashari neural stabilizer. "We don't have a choice. We have to risk it." He pressed the device against Shepard's neck, and the Major's body jerked as the compound entered his system. For a moment, Shepard's vital signs flatlined. The research team held their breath, the battle raging outside momentarily forgotten. Then, with a gasp, Shepard's eyes flew open, blazing with an otherworldly light. "I see it now," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "The full potential of the network. But we need to move fast." Admiral Steele's face reappeared on the monitor. "Major, we've just received intelligence from Captain Harper's team. They've discovered a hidden Zyraxian research facility in the Proxima Centauri system. It houses a partially activated artifact." Shepard nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "That's our target, Admiral. We need to secure that artifact to fully synchronize the network." Steele's expression hardened with drive. "Understood. I'm forming an elite strike team led by Captain Harper. They'll escort you to the facility. We're calling this Operation Nexus." As the plans for Operation Nexus took shape, the Zyraxian forces regrouped. Their initial confusion from the widespread technological failures had passed, and they launched a renewed offensive against the human-led alliance. Shepard disconnected from the neural interface, his body weak but his mind sharp. As he prepared to join the strike team, He could feel the weight of the entire war resting on his shoulders. The knowledge gained from the artifact network buzzed in his head, a constant reminder of what was at stake. Outside the research station, the battle reached a fever pitch. Allied ships maneuvered desperately, using every trick and tactic at their disposal to hold off the Xeraxian onslaught. The space around them was a cacophony of weapons fire and explosions, punctuated by the eerie glow of the spatial anomalies. As Shepard boarded the transport that would take him to rendezvous with Captain Harper's team, he took one last look at the chaotic battlefield. The future of humanity and its place in the galactic community now hinged on the success of Operation Nexus. With a deep breath, he stepped into the transport, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in the hidden Xeraxian research facility. As the transport's engines hummed to life, Shepard felt a surge of persistence coursing through him. The fate of humanity and its allies rested on the success of this mission. The shuttle streaked through space, its advanced Vishari cloaking technology rendering it virtually invisible to Xeraxian sensors. Lieutenant Sarah Reeves, her hands dancing across the control panel, piloted the craft with precision and skill. Shepard watched in awe as she navigated through the chaos of the ongoing battle, effortlessly dodging debris and weapons fire. ETA to the Xeraxian research facility, 5 minutes, Reeves announced, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Captain Jack Harper, leader of the strike team, turned to address the group. All right, people, we're about to enter hostile territory. Our objective is clear. Secure the artifact and initiate the synchronization process. Dr. Morales, you'll work with Major Shepard on the activation. Clara, I need you to handle infiltration and security systems. The rest of you, be prepared for heavy resistance. As the team acknowledged their roles, Shepard felt the familiar tingle of the neural connection intensifying. The knowledge from the artifact network buzzed in his mind, providing crucial insights into what they might face. Suddenly, Lieutenant Reeves' voice cut through his thoughts. Sir, we have a problem. There's some kind of microscopic detection grid surrounding the facility. Our cloaking technology won't be enough to get us through undetected. Dr. Morales quickly pulled up a holographic display of the area. It's a field of nanomachines acting as a sensor net. Incredible technology, but it leaves us exposed. Captain Harper's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. Lieutenant Reeves, can you find us a way through? Reeves studied the sensor readings, her brow furrowed in concentration. There are gaps in the field, but they're narrow and constantly shifting. It'll be tight, but I think I can thread us through. Do it, Harper ordered. What followed was a masterclass in piloting. Reeves guided the shuttle through a series of impossibly tight maneuvers, relying on Dr. Morales' real-time sensor data to navigate the ever-changing maze of nanomachines. The team held their breath as the shuttle twisted and turned, coming within mere meters of detection at several points. As they cleared the final gap in the nanomachine field, a collective sigh of relief filled the cabin. But their respite was short-lived. The imposing structure of the Xeraxian research facility loomed before them, its defenses already on high alert. Clara, the Vishari stealth specialist, moved to the front of the shuttle. I can infiltrate their security systems, but I'll need to get closer. Harper nodded. Reeves, find us a blind spot. Clara, you're up as soon as we touch down. The shuttle landed in a shadowed recess near the facility's outer wall. Clara disappeared into the darkness, her bioorganic camouflage rendering her nearly invisible. Minutes later, her voice crackled over the comm. Security systems compromised. Internal sensors and communications are down, but it won't last long. Move out, Harper commanded, and the strike team poured out of the shuttle. They encountered the first wave of Crimson Talon guards almost immediately. The elite Xeraxian warriors put up fierce resistance, but the combined skills of Harper's team proved superior. Shepard, his combat instincts heightened by the neural link, moved with uncanny precision, each shot finding its mark. As they fought their way deeper into the facility, Admiral Steele's voice came through on a secure channel. "Captain Harper, be advised. The Zyraxians are adapting faster than anticipated. Their reinforcement fleet is pushing back hard. Whatever you're going to do it quickly." Harper acknowledged the warning as they reached the central chamber housing the artifact. The massive device pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its surface covered in intricate, glowing patterns. As Shepard approached the artifact, the neural connection flared painfully. He staggered, overwhelmed by the surge of information flooding his mind. "The activation sequence," he gasped, fighting through the disorientation. "I can see it clearly now." Dr. Morales rushed to Shepard's side, supporting him as he interfaced their equipment with the artifact. "Easy, Major. Your vitals are spiking dangerously." Before Morales could stabilize Shepard's condition, alarms blared throughout the facility. Captain Harper's voice rang out. "We've got company! Crimson Talon reinforcements incoming." The chamber erupted into chaos as Harper and the strike team engaged the Zyraxian forces pouring through the entrances. The air filled with the sharp reports of gunfire and the sizzle of energy weapons. Shepard, gritting his teeth against the pain, focused on the activation sequence. His hands moved across the artifact's surface, guided by the knowledge burning in his mind. Dr. Morales worked frantically beside him, correlating the incoming data with their previous artifact encounters. "Almost there," Shepard muttered, his voice strained. "Just one more sequence and—" A blinding flash of energy erupted from the artifact, momentarily overwhelming everyone in the chamber. As the light faded, Shepard saw the Crimson Talon forces lying incapacitated on the ground. "What just happened?" Harper demanded, lowering his weapon. Dr. Morales checked his instruments, his eyes widening. "The artifact. It's fully activated, and it's creating a resonance effect with the entire network. The power output is off the charts." Shepard nodded, processing the information flowing through his neural link. "But it's not enough. We need 2 more specific artifacts to complete the synchronization and gain full control." Before they could discuss their next move, the facility shook violently. Harper activated his tactical display, his expression grim. "We're surrounded. Zyraxian forces have the building locked down tight." As the team secured their position in the artifact chamber, Shepard's mind raced with the new information from the network. He saw vivid images of 2 distant worlds, each housing a crucial artifact needed to complete their mission. "I know where we need to go next," Shepard announced, his voice filled with urgency. "But first, we need to find a way out of here." Captain Harper surveyed the team, his mind already formulating a plan. "All right, people, we've come too far to fail now. Let's show these Zyraxians why you don't corner humanity. Dr. Morales, what can you tell us about the facility's layout? Clara, I need options for exfiltration. And Shepard, we're going to need every bit of insight that Artifact Network can give us." As the team huddled together, formulating their escape plan, the weight of their mission pressed heavily upon them. The artifact chamber, once a prize to be won, had become a fortress under siege. Outside, the battle for humanity's future raged on, its outcome hinging on their next move. As the team huddled together, formulating their escape plan, the weight of their mission pressed heavily upon them. The artifact chamber, once a prize to be won, had become a fortress under siege. Outside, the battle for humanity's future raged on, its outcome hinging on their next actions. Captain Harper's eyes gleamed with grit as he assessed their situation. "All right, people, we've got a narrow window here. That energy pulse from the artifact has temporarily incapacitated the Crimson Talon forces. We need to use this to our advantage." He turned to the team, his voice low and urgent. Everyone, grab any portable Zoraxian tech you can carry. If we can reverse engineer this stuff, it could give us a crucial edge. The team sprang into action, scooping up discarded weapons, data pads, and other alien devices strewn about the chamber. Dr. Morales worked feverishly at a nearby console, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "Captain," he called out, excitement evident in his voice. "I think I've found a way to amplify the artifact's disruptive effect. If I can modify our equipment, we might be able to create a localized pulse that could disable the facility's defenses." Harper nodded sharply. "Do it. How long?" 5 minutes, maybe less," Morales replied, already diving into the modifications. As the doctor worked, Shepard stepped forward, his eyes still glowing faintly from his connection with the artifact network. "I know where we need to go next," he said, his voice strained but clear. "I saw 2 locations. 2 more artifacts we need to complete the synchronization." The team gathered around as Shepard described his vision, a heavily fortified Zoraxian military world called Kronax, and an ancient space station orbiting a dying star in neutral territory. Harper absorbed the information, his mind already formulating strategies. "We'll need to split our forces to hit both targets simultaneously. But first, we need to get out of here alive." He turned to Clara, the Vishari stealth specialist. "I need you to plant explosives at key structural points around the chamber. We'll use them as a diversion during our escape." Clara nodded, her bioorganic camouflage rippling as she melted into the shadows of the chamber. Moments later, Dr. Morales called out, "It's ready. The pulse generator is online." Harper gave the order. "Hit it, Doc." Morales activated the device, and a wave of energy surged through the facility. The lights flickered and died, plunging the chamber into darkness broken only by the soft glow of the artifact and emergency lighting. "Move out," Harper barked, leading the team towards the exit. They navigated through disabled security checkpoints, the once impenetrable Zoraxian defenses now silent and dark. As they approached the outer layers of the facility, Harper's calm crackled to life. "Captain, this is Reeves," came the lieutenant's voice. "The pulse has affected the nanomachine detection grid. We've got a temporary gap in the outer defenses, but it's closing fast." "Understood," Harper replied. "We're on our way. Keep that shuttle hot." As they rounded a corner, they encountered unexpected resistance. A group of Zoraxian scientists, having shielded themselves from the pulse, stood between them and their exit. The aliens raised their weapons, their eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and persistence. The corridor erupted into chaos as both sides opened fire. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, leaving scorch marks on the metallic walls. Harper and his team took cover behind fallen debris, returning fire with practiced precision. In the midst of the firefight, one of the Zoraxian scientists managed to reach a control panel. With a series of rapid inputs, he activated an emergency beacon before Shepard's well-aimed shot took him down. "We've got to move faster," Harper shouted over the din of battle. "That beacon will bring the entire Zoraxian fleet down on us." They pushed forward, their superior training and the element of surprise giving them the edge. Within moments, the last of the Zoraxian scientists fell, and the team sprinted towards the extraction point. They burst out of the facility just as the backup systems began to flicker back to life. The cloaked shuttle sat waiting, its engines humming with almost unchecked power. "Get in," Reeves called from the cockpit as the team piled aboard. The shuttle lifted off, its advanced stealth systems straining against the reactivating Zoraxian sensors. Reeves' hands danced across the controls, guiding the vessel through the rapidly closing gap in the nanomachine grid. Behind them, Zoraxian interceptors scrambled in response to the emergency beacon, their engines flaring bright against the dark expanse of space. Reeves pushed the shuttle to its limits, weaving through a barrage of energy bolts that lit up the void around them. As they cleared the last of the Zeraxian defenses, Harper opened a secure channel to Admiral Steele. Admiral, mission partially accomplished. We've secured one artifact and located the other two, requesting immediate extraction and reinforcements. Steele's voice came through, tight with tension. Copy that, Captain. We've got your coordinates. Rendezvous with the fleet at Point Delta 9. We'll debrief there and plan our next move. As the shuttle sped towards the safety of the Allied fleet, Shepard leaned back in his seat, his pupils dilating from the intensity of the neural connection. The visions he had seen, glimpses of the artifact's creators and their ancient conflict with the Zyraxians, swirled in his thoughts, hinting at revelations yet to come. The team sat in exhausted silence, the adrenaline of their narrow escape slowly fading. They had won this battle, but as the stars streaked by outside the shuttle's viewport, they knew the war was far from finished. The race to secure the remaining artifacts had only just begun, and the full might of the Zyraxian Empire was about to be unleashed upon them. The full force of the Zyraxian Empire was poised to strike, and humanity's future hung in the balance. As the shuttle docked with the UESF Indomitable, Admiral Marcus Steele's flagship, Captain Harper and his team were immediately ushered to the command center. The cavernous room buzzed with activity, holographic displays flickering with real-time battle data from across the sector. Admiral Steele, his face etched with the weight of command, turned to greet them. Captain, I need your report. What's the status of the artifact? Harper stepped forward, his voice tight with urgency. Sir, we've secured one artifact and identified the locations of the other two, but the Zyraxians are mobilizing on a massive scale. We need to move fast. Steele nodded grimly, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. Agreed. We're implementing a new strategy to counter their counterattack. With a wave of his hand, Steele brought up a holographic representation of the fleet. We're reorganizing into a multi-layered defensive formation. Our most advanced ships will form the outer perimeter to absorb the initial Zyraxian assault. As Steele outlined the defensive strategy, Dr. Morales approached, his face creased with concern. Admiral, I need to discuss Major Shepard's condition. Steele's attention shifted to the doctor. What's the situation? The neural link with the artifact network is causing severe strain on his system, Morales explained. I recommend placing him in a medically induced coma to prevent further neural damage. Steele's teeth clenched, his eyes darting to Shepard, who stood nearby, his pupils still dilated from the intense connection. After a moment of consideration, he nodded. Do it, but keep him on standby for emergency reactivation. We may need his insights before this is over. As medical personnel escorted Shepard away, Steele turned his attention back to the mission at hand. We're launching a two-pronged assault to secure the remaining artifacts. Colonel Sarah Morales will lead Alpha Squad to Kronax, while Lieutenant Commander Hawkins takes Bravo Squad to the space station. Harper studied the mission briefings as they appeared on nearby screens. Sir, the defenses on Kronax look formidable. How do we plan to breach them? Colonel Morales has a specialized team, including members of her Titan-class battle mech battalion, Steele replied. They'll use guerrilla tactics to disable the planetary defense grid. As the teams prepared for deployment, alarms blared throughout the command center. A young officer rushed to Steele's side, her voice urgent. Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy surge from an uncharted sector of space. All eyes turned to the main view screen as a swarm of crystalline ships emerged from a nearby nebula, their massive forms dwarfing even the largest Zyraxian vessels. Unknown vessels on approach, the tactical officer reported, his voice tense. They're hailing us, sir. Steele straightened his uniform. On screen, The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any they had encountered before. Its crystalline form shimmered with an inner light, faceted eyes regarding them with alien intelligence. "I am High Commander ZYX Vor the Zerlith." The being's voice resonated through the command center. "We offer an alliance with humanity in exchange for access to the artifact network." Steele's mind raced, weighing the potential benefits and risks of this unexpected development. "High Commander, we appreciate your offer. However, we need time to consider the implications of such an alliance." ZYX Vor's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been impatience. "Time is a luxury you may not have, Admiral. The Zeraxian fleet approaches, and our assistance could turn the tide of this battle." Steele's eyes narrowed. "I understand, High Commander. I'm dispatching our top diplomat, Ambassador Jacob Walker, to begin negotiations immediately. In the meantime, we would welcome any assistance you can provide against the Zeraxian threat." As Walker hurried to prepare for the impromptu diplomatic mission, Steele turned back to his command staff. "This changes nothing about our primary objective. Alpha and Bravo squads, prepare for immediate deployment. We need those artifacts secured before the Zeraxians can regroup." The command center erupted into a flurry of activity as final preparations were made. Colonel Sarah Morales and her Alpha squad boarded their stealth dropship, the vessel's hull shimmering as its adaptive camouflage engaged. Lieutenant Commander Hawkins led Bravo squad to their own ship, joined by a contingent of Ashari scientists whose bioorganic technology might prove crucial in navigating the ancient space station. As the strike teams launched, the main view screen lit up with the ominous sight of the approaching Zeraxian armada. Thousands of ships filled the void, their energy weapons charging for the impending assault. Steele's voice cut through the tension in the command center. "All ships assume defensive positions. Prepare to engage the enemy." The human-led Alliance fleet moved into formation, their ships forming concentric layers of defense. As the first wave of Zeraxian fighters streaked toward them, Steele gave the order that would ignite the next phase of the war. "All ships open fire." The void between the fleets erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons and explosions. The battle for humanity's future had begun in earnest, with the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance. The void between the fleets erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons and explosions. The battle for humanity's future had begun in earnest, with the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance. Admiral Steele's eyes darted across the holographic displays, assessing the unfolding chaos. "Status report on the quantum entanglement disruptor," he barked. A nearby officer responded. "QED is at full power, so the UESF Retribution is moving into position." Steele nodded grimly. "Execute Operation Shatterpoint. Deploy the Retribution to the center of the Zeraxian assault." The massive flagship surged forward, its experimental device creating a visible distortion in the fabric of space. As the Retribution approached the heart of the enemy formation, Steele gave the order. "Activate the QED. Full power." A wave of quantum distortion rippled through space, engulfing hundreds of Zeraxian ships. Their engines sputtered and died, leaving them adrift and vulnerable. However, the triumph was short-lived as several Allied vessels also lost power, caught in the QED's indiscriminate effect. Aboard the Retribution, alarms blared as the QED's energy output spiked beyond predicted levels. The ship shuddered, systems failing across all decks. "Sir, we can't shut it down," an engineer shouted, panic evident in his voice. "The device is building up power exponentially. It could tear the ship apart." Steele's teeth clenched. "Initiate emergency protocols. Prepare for possible evacuation." As the battle raged in space, Colonel Sarah Morales and her Alpha Squad faced their own crisis on Kronax. Their stealth systems failed, leaving them exposed to the planet's formidable defenses. "Change of plans," Morales commanded, her voice steady despite the dire situation. "We're going to blend in the old-fashioned way. Commandeer those Xeraxian vehicles and follow my lead." The squad fought their way through waves of defenders, their stolen vehicles providing both cover and camouflage. As they approached the Central Command bunker, Morales surveyed her team. Their numbers had dwindled, but purpose burned in the eyes of the survivors. "This is it," she said, hefting her weapon. "The artifact is just beyond those doors. Let's make every shot count." They burst into the inner sanctum, energy bolts sizzling through the air. Morales spotted the artifact, its otherworldly glow a stark contrast to the sterile Xeraxian architecture. But as she moved to secure it, a holographic display caught her eye. "By the stars," she breathed, realizing the artifact was connected to a planetary self-destruct mechanism. The choice before her was clear but impossible. Retrieve the artifact and potentially doom an entire world, or abandon the mission and leave empty-handed. Meanwhile, in the ancient space station orbiting a dying star, Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins led a small team towards the artifact's energy signature. The rest of Bravo's squad held their position in the central hub, locked in a fierce firefight with the station's scavenger inhabitants. Hawkins and his team navigated through twisting corridors, the station's alien architecture making every step treacherous. They finally reached the artifact chamber, finding the object suspended in a field of shimmering energy. "Carlson, work on bypassing those security systems," Hawkins ordered. "The rest of you keep watch. I don't like how quiet it's gotten." As Carlson worked, the station suddenly hummed to life. Lights flickered on, and a deep thrumming resonated through the structure. "Sir," Carlson called out, his voice tight with urgency, "the station's reactivating, and there's some kind of countdown initiated." Alarms blared throughout the station, warning of an impending reactor overload. Hawkins realized with growing dread that they were now racing against time to secure the artifact before the entire station was obliterated, taking them and the nearby star with it. Back on Earth, panic gripped the populace as the effects of protocol blackout became apparent. Riots erupted in major cities, with civilians fighting over dwindling resources. Rear Admiral Jessica Morales mobilized the planetary defense forces, working to maintain order and protect critical infrastructure. "Get those shelters online now," she commanded her staff. "If the Xeraxians break through, we need to be ready." Above the planet, the Aegis defense system showed signs of imminent failure. Engineers worked frantically to reroute power, but several sections of the energy shield flickered and failed, leaving Earth partially exposed. In orbit, Ambassador Jacob Walker's negotiations with the Zerlith reached a critical juncture. High Commander ZYXVOR's crystalline form pulsed with an otherworldly light as he made his offer. "The artifact network was created by our ancestors," ZYXVOR proclaimed. "We can provide you with the knowledge to activate it, but in return, humanity must pledge to support our reclamation of galactic leadership once the war is won." Walker's mind raced, weighing the potential benefits against the unknown consequences of such an alliance. As he prepared to respond, a medical alert blared through the command center. In the medical bay, Major John Shepard's eyes snapped open, his neural link to the artifact network surging with renewed strength. A vision overwhelmed him, a catastrophic event that could destroy both the human-led alliance and the Xeraxian Empire. As Shepard struggled to make sense of the vision, the battle raged on multiple fronts. The QED threatened to tear the Retribution apart. Colonel Morales faced an impossible choice on Kronax, and Hawkins raced against time in the ancient space station. With Earth's defenses failing and the Zerlith's offer hanging in the balance, the next few moments would determine the fate of the galactic realm. As the battle raged across multiple fronts, Admiral Marcus Steele's attention snapped to the most immediate threat: the malfunctioning quantum entanglement disruptor aboard the UESF Retribution. The ship shuddered violently, its hull groaning under the strain of the device's escalating energy output. All non-essential personnel, evacuate immediately, Steele ordered, his voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms. Transfer to nearby Allied vessels. Move. Crew members rushed to the escape pods and shuttles, the urgency of the situation evident in their hurried movements. Steele turned to a small group of engineers, drive etched on their faces. "We're going in," he said, leading them towards the QED control room. "We need to manually disconnect this thing before it tears the ship apart." As they made their way through the corridors, the ship systems flickered and failed around them. Emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. Meanwhile, on the surface of Kronax, Colonel Sarah Morales stood before the artifact, its otherworldly glow reflecting in her eyes. The holographic display of the planetary self-destruct mechanism loomed ominously nearby. "Ramirez, Jensen," she called out to her remaining team members. "Work on disabling that self-destruct. I'm securing the artifact." As her squad rushed to the control panel, Morales approached the artifact. She reached out, her hand trembling slightly as it neared the shimmering energy field surrounding the object. With a deep breath, she grasped the artifact and pulled it free. The reaction was immediate. The ground beneath them shook violently, and alarms blared throughout the facility. "Colonel," Ramirez shouted over the noise, "we've slowed the process, but we can't stop it entirely. The planet's core is destabilizing." Morales clutched the artifact tightly. "Fall back to the extraction point. Move." As they ran, the world around them began to crumble. Fissures opened in the ground, spewing superheated gas and molten rock. The team dodged falling debris and leapt over widening chasms, the precious artifact secure in Morales' grip. In the ancient space station, Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins watched anxiously as Carlson worked to bypass the artifact security systems. The station's hum had intensified to a deafening roar, and the countdown to reactor overload ticked relentlessly onwards. "Sir," Carlson called out, frustration evident in his voice, "these systems are beyond anything we've encountered. I can't crack it in time." Hawkins's gaze fell on the Vishari scientists accompanying their team. An idea formed in his mind, dangerous but potentially their only option. "You!" He pointed to one of the Vishari. "Your bioorganic tech, can it interface with the artifact's energy field?" The alien's eyes widened in understanding. "Yes, but the risk of radiation exposure dash." "I'll do it myself," Hawkins interrupted, already moving towards the artifact. "Talk me through it." Under the Vishari's guidance, Hawkins used the bioorganic technology to create a direct neural link with the artifact. Pain seared through his body as unknown energies coursed through him, but he pushed through, his mind racing to decipher and deactivate the security measures. With seconds to spare, the energy field around the artifact collapsed. Hawkins grabbed it, his body still crackling with residual energy. "Everyone out!" he shouted, staggering towards the exit. "This whole place is about to blow." As the teams raced against time on Kronax and the space station, Earth faced its own crisis. Rear Admiral Jessica Morales stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center, watching as sections of the Aegis defense system continued to fail. "Ma'am," an officer reported, "we're losing coverage over the Pacific. At this rate, we'll have multiple exposed sectors within the hour." Morales' mind raced, considering and discarding options until a desperate plan formed. "Contact all major particle accelerators and fusion reactors," she ordered. "We're going to redirect their power to Aegis." As her staff scrambled to implement the order, Morales knew the cost of this decision. Earth's power grid would be pushed to the brink of collapse, but it was their only chance to maintain the planet's defenses. In orbit, Ambassador Jacob Walker's negotiations with the Zerlith reached a critical point. His comm unit buzzed urgently, displaying a priority message from Admiral Steele. Walker's eyes widened as he read the dire reports from all fronts. He turned to High Commander HFY, whose crystalline form pulsed with anticipation. "High Commander," Walker began, choosing his words carefully. "On behalf of the human-led alliance, I provisionally accept your offer of assistance." HFY's faceted eyes gleamed. Walker quickly added, "However, any long-term agreements must be ratified by Earth's government once this immediate crisis is determined. Do you accept these terms?" The Zerlith leader's form shimmered in what Walker interpreted as agreement. "We accept," HFY's resonant voice declared. "Our fleet stands ready to engage." As if on cue, a swarm of crystalline ships surged forward, their advanced energy weapons lancing out to strike the vulnerable Zeraxian vessels with surgical precision. The sudden intervention sent shockwaves through both fleets, providing a much-needed reprieve for the beleaguered Alliance forces. Aboard the Retribution, Admiral Steele led his engineering team through the chaotic bowels of the ship. They reached the QED control room, now a maelstrom of arcing energy and failing systems. "On my mark," Steele shouted over the din, positioning himself by a critical power junction. 3, 2, 1. Now! In a coordinated effort, the team severed the connections between the QED and the ship's power grid. The device's ominous hum faded, but the damage was done. Systems across the Retribution flickered and died, leaving the once mighty flagship adrift in space. Steele tapped his comm unit. "This is Admiral Steele to all Alliance forces. The QED threat has been neutralized, but the Retribution is crippled. I'm transferring command to the UESF Intrepid. Continue to engage the enemy and provide support to our ground teams." As Steele prepared to leave the Retribution, an urgent message came through. Major John Shepard, newly awakened from his coma, was insisting on being transported to the damaged flagship. Despite the risks, Steele authorized the transfer, sensing that Shepard's connection to the artifact network could be crucial in the battles to come. With the immediate crises temporarily contained, the Alliance forces regrouped. But as Colonel Morales' team fought their way off the disintegrating surface of Kronax and Lieutenant Commander Hawkins's squad raced to escape the exploding space station, a new threat loomed on the horizon. The Zeraxians, pushed to desperation by the Zerlith intervention, were preparing to unveil a weapon that could change the course of the war and potentially tear apart the very fabric of space-time itself. As the Zeraxians prepared to unveil their reality-altering weapon, Admiral Marcus Steele's eyes narrowed, his mind racing through potential countermeasures. The arrival of Major John Shepard on the bridge of the damaged Retribution sparked a flicker of hope. Shepard, still pale from his ordeal, locked eyes with Steele. "Admiral, I have a plan. It's risky, but it might be our only shot at neutralizing that superweapon." Steele listened intently as Shepard outlined his proposal. The Major's connection to the artifact network could be the key to generating a counter-resonance field capable of disrupting the Zeraxian technology. It was audacious, potentially suicidal, but faced with the alternative, Steele made his decision. "Make it happen," he ordered, turning to his communications officer. "Priority message to all Allied ships. We need those artifacts on the Retribution immediately." Within minutes, the ship buzzed with renewed activity. Engineers and scientists, led by Dr. Aaron Morales, transformed a section of the damaged vessel into a makeshift control center. As they worked, the two retrieved artifacts arrived, their otherworldly energy pulsing in sync with the ship's irregular power fluctuations. On Kronax's moon, Colonel Sarah Morales and her team fought a desperate battle for survival. Using debris from their crashed extraction ship, they created a crude fortification around their position and the precious artifact they guarded. "Incoming!" shouted Private Rodriguez as another wave of Zeraxian assault troops crested the lunar hill. Morales ducked behind a twisted bulkhead, plasma rounds sizzling past her head. She popped up, her rifle spitting fire, downing two Zyraxians in quick succession. "Jensen, how's that comm link coming?" she called out between bursts of gunfire. Corporal Jensen's voice crackled over their local frequency. "Almost there, Colonel. These Zyraxian systems are a nightmare to interface with." Moments later, a staticky connection opened with the Alliance fleet. Morales relayed their situation and received new orders, her face grim as she processed the implications of Shepard's plan. "Listen up," she addressed her team. "We hold this position at all costs. That artifact is our ticket out of here and might just protect the universe in the process." Meanwhile, a Zerlith rescue vessel maneuvered alongside the damaged shuttle, carrying Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins and his team. As they were transferred to the alien ship, Hawkins stumbled, his face ashen. "Sir, you need medical attention," one of his team members insisted, supporting him. Hawkins waved off the concern. "The artifact comes first. Get it to the Retribution." The Zerlith, honoring their agreement with Ambassador Walker, promptly delivered Hawkins and the artifact to Steele's flagship. As Hawkins was rushed to the medical bay, his body racked with severe radiation sickness, the second artifact was integrated into the makeshift control center. On Earth, Rear Admiral Jessica Morales stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center, her face illuminated by the flickering holographic displays. The Aegis defense system pulsed with an unhealthy rhythm, overtaxed by the extreme power demands. "Ma'am," a junior officer reported, "we're seeing cascading failures in the global power grid. Major cities are experiencing blackouts, and we're losing control of vital infrastructure." Morales' teeth clenched. "Redirect all available resources to maintain essential services. We need to keep society from collapsing while we fight this war." As Earth teetered on the brink, the battlefield in space erupted into chaos. The Zyraxian superweapon moved into position, its massive form dwarfing even the largest Allied ships. With a surge of dark energy, it began generating a series of miniature black holes. Alliance ships caught in the gravitational maelstrom were torn apart, their hulls crumpling like paper. Others desperately maneuvered to safer distances, leaving gaping holes in their defensive formations. Admiral Steele's voice cut through the pandemonium. "All ships, execute Maneuver Theta 9. I want a screen between that weapon and the Retribution." A complex dance of ships ensued, with Zerlith warships seamlessly integrating into the Allied formations. They engaged the Zyraxian defensive screen, drawing fire away from the Retribution and creating a window of opportunity for Shepard's plan. On the damaged flagship, Dr. Morales prepped Major Shepard for the risky procedure that would enhance his neural link with the artifact network. "This is going to hurt," Morales warned as he activated the hybrid human-Vishari interface. Shepard gritted his teeth as energy surged through his body. His back arched, vitals spiking dangerously on the medical monitors. The medical team rushed to stabilize him, fighting to keep him alive as his mind delved deeper into the ancient network. With alarms blaring and systems failing across the Retribution, Admiral Steele gave the final go-ahead. "Major Shepard, you have a green light. Activate the artifact network." Shepard's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. His consciousness expanded, connecting with the artifacts and reaching out across space to Colonel Morales' position on Kronax's moon. As the activation sequence began, the Retribution shuddered. Fires broke out across multiple decks, and the hull groaned under the strain of channeling the artifact network's immense power. The effects rippled across the battlefield. The Zyraxian-generated black holes began to waver, their gravitational pull weakening. But the process also created spatial anomalies that wreaked havoc on both Allied and enemy ships, twisting space-time around them. Realizing the threat to their superweapon, the Zyraxian fleet launched an all-out assault on the Retribution. Allied ships formed a protective barrier around the damaged flagship, meeting the Zyraxian onslaught with desperate courage. Inside the Retribution's makeshift control center, Shepard fought to maintain his connection to the artifact network. His body convulsed, blood trickling from his nose and ears as the counter-resonance field expanded. Dr. Morales shouted over the din of battle and failing systems. "We're losing him. Heart rate critical, neural activity off the charts." As the medical team fought to keep Shepard alive, the artifact network's power continued to grow. The future of the cosmos hung in the balance, with the success or failure of this bold strategy about to be determined. The counter-resonance field expanded rapidly, neutralizing more of the artificial black holes created by the Xeraxian superweapon. As the field grew, so did the strain on Major John Shepard's body. Shepard's back arched, his muscles rigid with tension. Sweat poured down his face, mixing with the blood trickling from his nose and ears. The medical monitors surrounding him shrieked in alarm as his vital signs became increasingly erratic. Dr. Aaron Morales barked orders to his team, his hands moving with practiced efficiency as he fought to stabilize Shepard's condition. "We need more bioorganic compounds. Increase the neural dampeners by 20%. A nurse rushed forward with a vial of luminescent blue liquid. Morales snatched it and quickly injected its contents into Shepard's neck. The Major's body convulsed violently, then settled into a series of rapid tremors. "Come on, John," Morales muttered, his eyes fixed on the fluctuating readings. "Just hold on a little longer." Outside the makeshift control center, chaos reigned. The Xeraxian fleet, sensing the threat to their superweapon, launched a furious assault on the Retribution. Energy beams and plasma bolts crisscrossed a void of space, slamming into the shields of Allied ships. On the bridge, Admiral Marcus Steele's voice cut through the din of battle. "All ships, tighten formation around the Retribution. We cannot let them break through." The Allied fleet responded, forming a protective barrier around the damaged flagship. Zerlith warships took point, their crystalline hulls glowing as they absorbed and redirected Xeraxian fire. Ambassador Jacob Walker stood beside Steele, his face grim as he watched the battle unfold. "The Zerlith are taking heavy losses, Admiral. They're honoring our agreement, but at great cost." Steele nodded, his lips pursed. "I know, but if Shepard's plan works, their sacrifice won't be in vain." A violent shudder ran through the Retribution as a Xeraxian beam penetrated their weakened shields, striking the hull. Alarms blared, and the ship listed to port. "Damage report," Steele demanded. An officer responded, her voice strained. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Sir, emergency force fields are holding, but our structural integrity is down to 62%. As if in response to the Retribution's plight, the Xeraxian superweapon began to show signs of instability. The artificial black holes it generated wavered, some collapsing in on themselves while others expanded erratically. In the control center, Dr. Morales noticed a change in the artifact's energy patterns. He called out to his team, "The network's reaching critical mass. We need to stabilize the power flow or we'll lose Shepard." The door to the control center hissed open, revealing Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins. He stumbled in, his face ashen and drawn from radiation sickness. A medical officer tried to restrain him, but Hawkins pushed past. "Let me help," he rasped, moving to Dr. Morales aside. "I've studied the artifacts. I might be able to fine-tune the activation process." Morales hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but if you feel yourself slipping, you pull out immediately. Understood?" Hawkins nodded weakly and began manipulating the controls. His hands shook, but his movements were precise. Slowly, the erratic spikes in Shepard's neural activity began to smooth out. On Cronax's moon, Colonel Sarah Morales and her team fought desperately to hold their position. The artifact they guarded pulsed with increasing intensity, synchronized with the network aboard the Retribution. "Incoming!" Private Rodriguez shouted as another wave of Xeraxian troops crested the lunar hill. Morales ducked behind a twisted piece of hull plating, her rifle clutched tightly to her chest. She popped up, squeezing off 3 quick shots. 2 Zyraxians fell, their armored bodies crumpling in the low gravity. "Jensen, status on those salvage weapons?" Morales called out. Corporal Jensen's voice crackled over the comm. "Almost there, Colonel. These Zyraxian plasma casters pack a punch, but they're tricky to rewire." A series of explosions rocked their makeshift fortification. Morales felt the ground shift beneath her feet as part of their defenses collapsed. "We don't have almost, Jensen. We need those weapons now." Back on the Retribution, Major Shepard's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. His body went rigid, hovering inches above the medical bed as energy crackled around him. Dr. Morales stumbled back, shielding his eyes. "What's happening?" Hawkins leaned forward, his own pain forgotten as he studied the readouts. "He's done it." Shepard's fully synchronized the artifacts with the network. A massive surge of energy erupted from the Retribution, spreading outward in a rapidly expanding wave. It washed over Allied and Zyraxian ships alike, its effects immediate and dramatic. Zyraxian vessels sparked and floundered, their systems overloading. Allied ships, in contrast, seemed to absorb the energy, their shields strengthening and weapons powering up to unprecedented levels. The Zyraxian superweapon, caught at the epicenter of the wave, began to implode. Its massive form twisted and contorted, collapsing in on itself as it formed a short-lived singularity. Nearby Zyraxian ships were pulled in, unable to escape the sudden gravitational pull. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Steele watched in awe as the tide of battle shifted dramatically. All ships pressed the advantage. The Zyraxians are in disarray. But even as the Allied forces prepared to launch a counterattack, a new crisis emerged. The artifact network, now fully activated and synchronized, began to overload. Energy readings spiked off the charts, threatening to unleash an even more powerful and potentially uncontrollable wave. Alarms blared throughout the Retribution as systems struggled to contain the growing power surge. Admiral Steele's face hardened as he realized the danger. "This is Admiral Steele to all hands. Initiate immediate evacuation procedures. I repeat, all personnel are to evacuate the Retribution immediately." In the control center, Dr. Morales and his team worked frantically to disconnect Major Shepard from the artifact network. But the neural link proved too strong, resisting their every attempt to sever it. Hawkins, his face pale with exhaustion and radiation sickness, spoke up. "I have an idea. It's risky, but it might be our only chance." Dr. Morales turned to him, desperation evident in his eyes. "What is it?" "We can use the Vishari bioorganic technology to create a buffer," Hawkins explained, his voice weak but determined. "It might allow us to gradually disconnect Shepard without causing catastrophic feedback." As the evacuation of the Retribution continued around them, Dr. Morales nodded grimly. "Do it. It's our only shot." While Hawkins began implementing his plan, Admiral Steele stood on the rapidly emptying bridge, facing the most crucial decision of his career. The artifact network's energy levels continued to climb, pushing towards a point of no return. Steele's mind raced, weighing the options: attempt to shut down the network and potentially lose their advantage over the Zyraxians, or risk unleashing an unknown force that could reshape the galaxy itself. The fate of the war, and possibly the entire universe, hung in the balance as Steele contemplated his next move. Time was running out, and the consequences of his choice would echo across the cosmos. Cosmos and humanity's place within it. Steele's eyes hardened as he made his decision. Maintain network activation. We can't lose this advantage now. He turned to his communications officer. Broadcast on all channels. Immediate evacuation of all non-essential personnel from the Retribution. I repeat, immediate evacuation. As the order went out, the ship shuddered violently. Sparks erupted from consoles, and the lights flickered ominously. In the control center, Dr. Morales and Hawkins worked frantically to implement their plan. Hawkins's hands shook as he manipulated the Vishari technology, his face pale and drawn. "This should create a bioorganic buffer," Hawkins explained, his voice barely above a whisper. "It'll act as an interface between Shepard's mind and the network, reducing the physical strain." Dr. Morales nodded, his eyes fixed on Shepard's convulsing form. "Let's hope it works. We're running out of time." As they worked, crew members rushed past the open door, heading for escape pods and shuttles. The evacuation was in full swing, the corridors filled with the sound of pounding feet and urgent shouts. On the bridge, Steele oversaw the controlled chaos of the evacuation. "Status report on the artifact network," he demanded. An officer responded, her voice tight with tension. "Energy levels are still climbing, so we're seeing ripple effects across multiple systems." Steele nodded grimly. "Transfer command to the Indomitable. I'll coordinate from there." As Steele prepared to leave, Ambassador Walker approached him. "Admiral, the Zerlith have suffered heavy losses defending us. They'll want access to the network as agreed." "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," Steele replied, his tone brooking no argument. "Right now, our priority is survival." In the control center, Shepard's body suddenly went rigid, then relaxed. His eyes, still glowing with otherworldly energy, focused on Dr. Morales. "It's working," Shepard said, his voice strained but clear. "I can feel the network. It's vast, beyond anything we imagined." Dr. Morales checked the readings, his eyes widening. "The buffer is holding. Vitals are stabilizing." Hawkins slumped against a console, exhaustion etched on his features. "We need to get him off the ship. It's breaking apart." As if to underscore his words, a massive tremor ran through the Retribution. The sound of tearing metal echoed through the corridors. On Cronax's moon, Colonel Sarah Morales and her team huddled behind their makeshift fortifications. The artifact they guarded pulsed with increasing intensity, synchronized with the network's activation. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the chaos of battle, the roar of dropship engines. A joint human-Zerlith strike force descended from the sky, laying down suppressing fire on the Zeraxian positions. "Extraction team incoming," Morales shouted to her squad. "Prepare to move." As the dropships touched down, Morales and her team made a mad dash across the lunar surface. Plasma bolts from Zeraxian weapons sizzled past them, superheating the regolith. They reached the dropship, Morales clutching the artifact to her chest. As the ship lifted off, she caught a glimpse of the battlefield below. The Zeraxian forces were in disarray, their vehicles and weapons malfunctioning as the artifact network's energy wave washed over them. Back on the Retribution, Admiral Steele oversaw the final stages of the evacuation from the Indomitable's bridge. The Retribution's hull was breaching in multiple locations, venting atmosphere and debris into space. "Status on Major Shepard and the control team?" Steele demanded. "They're en route to the last shuttle now, sir," an officer reported. "But the Retribution's structural integrity is failing rapidly." Steele watched the visual feed as Shepard, supported by Dr. Morales and Hawkins, stumbled towards the waiting shuttle. The deck beneath their feet bucked and heaved as the ship began to break apart. Just as they reached the shuttle, a massive explosion rocked the hangar bay. The blast knocked them off their feet, sending them sprawling across the deck. Steele leaned forward, his fist clenched as he gripped the console. "Get them out of there now." On the Retribution, Dr. Morales struggled to his feet. He grabbed Shepard's arm, hauling him up. "Come on, Major. We're not dying here today." Hawkins, barely conscious, was lifted by two crew members. They all staggered into the shuttle, the hatch sealing behind them just as another explosion tore through the hangar. The shuttle rocketed away from the dying Retribution, weaving through a field of debris. Behind them, the once mighty flagship of the human fleet broke apart in a series of spectacular explosions. As they cleared the immediate danger zone, Shepard's eyes snapped open. He sat up abruptly, startling Dr. Morales. "I can see it all," Shepard said, his voice filled with awe. "The network. It's spreading across the galaxy, activating dormant artifacts, creating connections." Dr. Morales steadied him. "What do you mean? What's happening?" Shepard's gaze was distant, seeing beyond the confines of the shuttle. "The Zyraxians. Their ships are failing. Whole systems are going dark. But that's not all. The network is changing, altering space itself." As the shuttle approached the Indomitable, the crew could see the effects Shepard described. Zyraxian ships drifted powerless in space, while others seemed to flicker and distort, caught in areas of warped space-time. Admiral Steele's voice came over the comm system. "Major Shepard, Dr. Morales, report to the bridge as soon as you dock. We need to understand what we're dealing with." As the shuttle settled into the Indomitable's hangar, Shepard turned to Dr. Morales, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Doctor," he said, "I think we've just changed the course of the war, but I'm not sure we're ready for what comes next." Dr. Morales nodded grimly as they prepared to disembark. The artifact network's activation had given them a powerful advantage, but as they stepped onto the Indomitable, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had opened a Pandora's box of galactic proportions. As the shuttle docked with the Indomitable, the weight of their actions settled heavily upon them. Admiral Steele wasted no time once Shepard and Dr. Morales arrived on the bridge. His face was etched with lines of fatigue, but his eyes burned with intensity. "Major, Doctor, we need answers. What exactly are we dealing with here?" Shepard, still unsteady on his feet, gripped the nearest console for support. "Sir, the network. It's beyond anything we imagined. It's not just a weapon or a communication system. It's reshaping reality itself." As if to underscore his point, the main view screen flickered to life, showing a real-time map of the galaxy. Countless points of light pulsed in synchronization, representing newly activated artifacts. Steele's eyes sharp. "We need to secure those artifacts before anyone else does, especially the Zyraxians." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Colonel Sarah Morales. I want her to lead a specialized task force for artifact retrieval." Within hours, the Indomitable was a hive of activity. Steele had initiated a series of strategic operations to consolidate their newfound advantage. Teams were assembled, ships were prepped, and intelligence was gathered on potential artifact locations. Colonel Sarah Morales, having barely recovered from her ordeal on Cronax's moon, found herself thrust back into action. She stood in the Indomitable's briefing room, surrounded by a diverse group of specialists. "Our target is here," she said, pointing to a holographic display of an ice planet, a newly activated artifact in an unexplored system. "We'll be combining human special forces with Zerlith energy specialists and Vishari bioorganic experts." As Morales outlined the mission parameters, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Colonel Morales to the bridge. Urgent communication from Earth." On the bridge, a familiar face appeared on the main screen. Rear Admiral Jessica Morales, Sarah's sister, looked haggard but determined. "Sarah, I hope you're ready for more action. We need that artifact secured ASAP. With the temporary boost to Earth's defenses from the network's energy wave, we're redirecting resources to rebuild. But we can't let our guard down." Colonel Morales nodded grimly. "Understood, Jess. We won't let you down." As final preparations for the mission were made, Ambassador Jacob Walker approached Admiral Steele. "Admiral, we need to address the diplomatic fallout from this." I'm convening an emergency summit of allied races and neutral parties. We need to establish protocols for the network's use and governance before this turns into an all-out scramble for artifacts. Steele agreed, though his attention was clearly divided. Make it happen, Ambassador, but our priority right now is securing those artifacts. In the medical bay, Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins fought through waves of nausea as he pored over data on the Vishari bioorganic buffer technology. Despite his radiation sickness, he was determined to find a way to replicate the technology that had saved Shepard's life. If we can develop this, he muttered to himself, we might be able to interact with the network safely, without risking more lives like Shepard's. As Colonel Morales' task force prepared to depart, tension filled the air. High Commander Zyxvor the Zerlith had been growing impatient, positioning warships near key human-controlled artifacts under the guise of protective patrols. Steele watched the Zerlith ships on the tactical display, his expression dark. We need to tread carefully here. We can't afford to alienate our allies, but we can't let them strong-arm us either. The moment of departure arrived. Colonel Morales stood on the bridge of her assigned ship, the UESF Pathfinder, as it disengaged from the Indomitable's docking bay. All systems go, her pilot reported. Course laid in for the ice planet. As the Pathfinder and its escort ships entered FTL, Morales couldn't shake a feeling of unease. This mission could change the course of the war, perhaps even the future of the galaxy itself. Days later, as they approached their destination, long-range sensors lit up with multiple contacts. Colonel, her sensor officer called out, we're detecting several ships of unknown configuration approaching the planet. They'll reach the artifact site before us. Morales' eyes narrowed. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. We're not losing this artifact without a fight. As the Pathfinder dropped out of FTL, the ice planet loomed before them. Somewhere on its frozen surface lay an artifact that could tip the balance of power. And between them and their goal, a cluster of alien ships was closing fast. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across the stars, with the fate of the artifact network hanging in the balance. The Pathfinder's engines roared as Colonel Sarah Morales guided the ship through the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Ice crystals pelted the hull, creating a cacophony that filled the bridge. Brace for landing, Morales called out, her hands steady on the controls. The ship touched down with a bone-jarring thud, kicking up a cloud of snow and ice. Morales unstrapped herself from the pilot's seat and turned to her team. Gear up for extreme cold. We move fast and set up base camp ASAP. As they exited the ship, a biting wind slammed into them, carrying shards of ice that stung exposed skin. Visibility was near zero in the swirling white. Morales activated her suit's thermal imaging, revealing the ghostly outlines of her team as they trudged through knee-deep snow. Form up. Stay close. They found a natural outcropping of ice that provided some shelter from the wind. Within minutes, they had erected a series of modular structures, creating a makeshift base camp. Inside the main structure, Morales huddled with her team leads, HFY Stories, the Zerlith energy specialist, and Vasrin, the Vishari bioorganic expert. Status report, Morales demanded, shaking ice from her suit. HFY Stories' multifaceted eyes glowed as he interfaced with their scanning equipment. Energy readings are strong but diffuse. The artifact is likely buried deep. Vasrin, her tendrils undulating with concentration, added, I'm detecting unusual biosignatures. This planet may not be as lifeless as it appears. Morales nodded, processing the information. Let's get those long-range sensors up. I want to know the second those unknown ships enter the atmosphere. As if on cue, a warning klaxon blared. A junior officer burst into the room, his face pale. Colonel, multiple contacts just dropped out of FTL. They're entering the atmosphere now. Morales' teeth clenched. Time to arrival? At their current speed, less than an hour. Then we have less than an hour to find that artifact. Move out. The team sprang into action, donning their gear and charging back into the howling storm. X-Wildar led the way, his energy-sensing apparatus pulsing with increasing frequency as they neared their target. They came upon a vast crevasse, its depths lost in shadow and swirling snow. X-Wildar's device went wild. "It's down there," he shouted over the wind. "Deep in the ice." Morales peered into the abyss, her mind racing. "We need to—" Her words were cut off by a deafening roar. Through gaps in the clouds, they could see the silhouettes of massive ships descending. "Defensive positions," Morales barked. "Prep the heavy equipment. We're going in after that artifact." As her team scrambled to set up a perimeter and ready their excavation gear, Morales' calm crackled to life. It was Admiral Steele. "Colonel, situation report." Morales quickly filled him in on their progress and the approaching ships. Steele's voice was grim. "We're monitoring your situation. Be advised, we're dealing with our own complications up here. Ambassador Walker's summit is reaching a critical point. Several neutral parties are demanding access to the network." Morales frowned. "Sir, with all due respect, we can't afford to." "I know, Colonel, but we may not have a choice. Hold your position and secure that artifact. I'll deal with the politics." The communication cut off, leaving Morales standing at the edge of the crevasse, the wind howling around her and the unknown ships growing larger on the horizon. She turned to her team, perseverance etched on her face. "Let's move, people. We've got an artifact to unearth and some unexpected guests to greet." As they began their descent into the icy depths, Morales couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of something far greater than they could imagine. The artifact waited below, its secrets buried in the ice, while above, new players entered a game whose rules were changing by the minute. The race was on, and the fate of galaxies hung in the balance. Balance. The Pathfinder's engines roared as Colonel Sarah Morales guided the ship through the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Ice crystals pelted the hull, creating a cacophony that filled the bridge. As Morales and her team set up their base camp and began their search for the artifact, Admiral Marcus Steele watched the situation unfold from the bridge of the UESF Indomitable. His brow furrowed as he processed the rapidly evolving crisis. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving an urgent transmission from Earth. It's Rear Admiral Jessica Morales." Steele nodded, and Jessica's face appeared on the main view screen. Her expression was grim, lines of fatigue etched around her eyes. "Marcus, we've got a situation here. The gravitational anomalies from the activated artifacts are spreading faster than we anticipated. We need more resources to contain them." Steele's teeth gritted. "Understood, Jessica. I'm dispatching additional support to your location now." He turned to his tactical officer. "Redirect the 7th Fleet to Earth. Priority, anomaly containment." As the orders were relayed, Steele's attention shifted to another pressing matter. Ambassador Jacob Walker approached, datapad in hand. "Admiral, the summit is reaching a critical point. Several neutral parties are demanding access to the network. If we don't offer something soon, we risk losing potential allies." Steele considered for a moment, then made a decision. "Offer them limited access, Jacob. Closely monitored to specific aspects of the network. We need allies, but we can't compromise our control." Walker nodded and hurried off to begin negotiations. Steele's comm unit chirped again. This time, it was Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins from the medical bay. "Admiral, we're ready to begin the first human trials of the new neural interface. The volunteers are prepped and waiting." "Proceed, Hawkins, but exercise extreme caution. We can't afford any more casualties. As Hawkins signed off, Steele's attention was drawn back to the tactical display. A flashing icon indicated an incoming transmission from Colonel Morales on the ice planet. "Colonel, report," Steele ordered as her face appeared on screen. "Sir, we've made contact with the unknown ships. They're a species called the Churati, crystalline beings highly advanced. They're claiming prior knowledge of the artifact network." Steele's eyebrows rose. "Prior knowledge? That could be invaluable. What's your assessment, Colonel?" Morales' image flickered as she replied. "Their leader, Zuwaxlara, seems open to negotiation. I propose a temporary alliance to study the artifact jointly. It's caused some division among their ranks." "Good work, Colonel. Keep me informed of any developments. I'm sending reinforcements your way. A heavily armed support fleet should reach your position within the hour." As Steele ended the transmission, alarms blared across the bridge. The tactical officer's voice cut through the chaos. "Sir, we're detecting a massive power surge from the UESF Retribution." Steele's eyes widened. The Retribution? That's where Shepard. Before he could finish, Major John Shepard's face appeared on the main view screen. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated, a thin trickle of blood running from his nose. "Admiral," Shepard gasped, his voice strained. "The network. I've seen it. The galactic receding. It's coming." Steele leaned forward, gripping the edge of his command console. "Galactic receding? Shepard, what are you talking about?" Shepard's words tumbled out in a rush. "It's a cosmic event, sir, happens every few million years. It reshapes the fabric of the universe. The artifact network. It's all connected. We need to..." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Steele's mind raced, processing the implications of Shepard's words. He turned to his executive officer. "Call an emergency meeting. Top military and scientific leaders from all allied species. We need to address this immediately." As the orders went out, Steele stared at the tactical display, watching the blips that represented his forces spread across the galaxy. The war with the Zyraxians, the artifact network, and now this galactic receding. The stakes had just been raised to a level he could scarcely comprehend. In the medical bay of the UESF Retribution, Shepard lay unconscious, his mind still connected to the vast network of artifacts. As the ship's medical staff worked to stabilize him, strange symbols and equations flashed across the neural interface monitors, hinting at the cosmic knowledge now locked within the Major's mind. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just the outcome of the war, but the very future of the galaxy itself. Admiral Steele's fingers flew across the holographic interface, issuing rapid-fire orders to his fleet. The revelation of the galactic receding had changed everything, and there wasn't a moment to lose. "All non-essential ships, fall back to designated artifact sites," he commanded, his voice firm and steady despite the gravity of the situation. "I want a defensive perimeter established around each location within the hour." As his orders echoed across the vast expanse of space, Steele turned to face the gathered representatives of the allied species. The Indomitable's main conference room buzzed with nervous energy as Zerlith, Vashari, and human officials murmured amongst themselves. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steele began, his voice cutting through the chatter, "what I'm about to share with you will reshape our understanding of the universe." The room fell silent as Steele activated a holographic display, showing the information transmitted by Major Shepard before his collapse. Complex equations and strange symbols danced in the air, accompanied by simulations of galactic-scale events. "The galactic receding," Steele explained, "is not just a theory. It's a cyclical event that reshapes the very fabric of our universe. And according to Major Shepard's vision, it's happening now." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Before anyone could respond, A Zerlith science officer burst through the doors, his multifaceted eyes pulsing with urgency. "Admiral!" the Zerlith exclaimed, mandibles clicking rapidly. Long-range sensors have detected a massive energy buildup at the galactic core. The readings are consistent with the early stages of the receding event. Steele's mind focused. He turned back to the assembled officials, his voice tight with controlled urgency. "We need to act now. I'm officially activating the Artifact Network Exploration and Security Force. Our primary objective is to understand and, if possible, control the receding process." As Steele issued more orders, coordinating the galaxy-wide response, the conference room's main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The face of Rear Admiral Jessica Morales appeared, her expression grave. "Marcus, I've received your directives," she said, her voice crackling slightly over the long-distance communication. "I'm initiating Operation Sanctuary immediately. We're converting every available military bunker and accelerating construction of new shelters. It's a long shot, but we'll do our best to protect as much of Earth's population as we can." Steele nodded, a flicker of pride crossing his face at his sister's efficiency. "Good work, Jessica. Keep me updated on your progress." As Jessica's transmission ended, another screen lit up. Lieutenant Commander David Hawkins appeared, his eyes bright with excitement despite the dark circles beneath them. "Admiral, we've had a breakthrough with the neural interface," Hawkins reported. "The initial human trials were successful, and we're now working on expanding the system's capabilities. We believe we can develop a method for multiple individuals to interface with the Artifact Network simultaneously." Steele's eyebrows rose. "Excellent work, Hawkins. That could be the key to harnessing the network's power. Push forward with all possible speed." As Hawkins signed off, Steele's attention was drawn to yet another incoming transmission. The gruff face of General Crackstor, leader of the Zeraxian rebel faction, filled the screen. "Admiral Steele," Crackstor growled, his reptilian features set in a grimace. "I have a proposition for you. My forces control a significant portion of the Zeraxian fleet. In light of this receding threat, I offer an alliance. Our combined strength, in exchange for access to your artifact network technology." Steele's mind raced, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. Before he could respond, his comm unit chimed with an urgent message from Colonel Sarah Morales on the ice planet. "Admiral," Sarah's voice came through, tinged with excitement. "We've reached an agreement with the Chirati. They've agreed to a temporary alliance and shared crucial information about the Artifact Network's original creators and its role in previous receding events." Steele's eyes widened. "Excellent work, Colonel. What's your status on activating the artifact?" "We're beginning the process now, sir," Sarah replied. "This artifact appears to be a control node for a significant portion of the network. If we can fully activate it, we might gain greater influence over the receding process." As Sarah's transmission ended, Steele turned back to the assembled officials, his mind working overtime to process all the new information and possibilities. "We're at a turning point," he announced. "The threat we face is beyond anything we've encountered before, but we also have unprecedented opportunities for cooperation and advancement." Steele's gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of each representative in turn. "I'm proposing the formation of a galactic council to coordinate our response to the receding threat. We'll extend invitations to all major powers, including the Zyraxians, Zerlith, Chirati, and previously neutral species." As murmurs of agreement spread through the room, Steele continued. "The first meeting will take place on a neutral space station at the heart of the Artifact Network. We must put aside our differences and work together if we hope to survive what's coming." Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared a warning. The tactical officer's voice cut through the noise. "Admiral, we're detecting a massive surge of energy from the galactic core. The receding event. It's entered its next phase." Steele's expression hardened with tenacity. He turned to his executive officer. "Prepare my shuttle. I'm heading to the Galactic Council meeting immediately." As the Admiral strode towards the hangar bay, the weight of the future of humanity rested squarely on his shoulders. The risk-seeding had begun, and the actions they took in the coming hours and days would determine the future of all sentient life. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and every second counted. As Steele's shuttle rocketed towards the neutral space station, alarms blared throughout the vessel. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Admiral, we're detecting massive gravitational fluctuations. The risk-seeding event is accelerating." Steele gripped his seat, feeling the shuttle shudder as it navigated through the increasingly turbulent space. Through the viewport, he watched as distant stars flickered and pulsed with unusual intensity. The fabric of space itself seemed to ripple and distort, creating a dizzying kaleidoscope of cosmic chaos. The shuttle docked with a violent jolt, and Steele wasted no time. He sprinted through the airlock and into the station's main corridor, his footsteps echoing in the tense silence. As he approached the council chamber, he could hear the rising voices of heated debate. The door slid open, revealing a scene of barely controlled chaos. Representatives from every major galactic power were gathered around a central holographic display, their faces etched with concern and fear. Steele recognized the reptilian features of General Crackstor, the multifaceted eyes of Zerlith High Commander ZYX-4, and the crystalline form of Churati Leader ZYX-Lara. Before Steele could speak, the holographic display flickered and changed. The image of Major John Shepard materialized in the center of the room, his form translucent and flickering. Despite the distortion, Steele could see the strain on Shepard's face, blood trickling from his nose and ears. "Time is running out." Shepard's voice resonated through the chamber, silencing all other conversation. The galactic risk-seeding has entered its final phase. Without immediate action, all existing life forms in the galaxy face extinction. Shepard's hologram gestured, and complex diagrams filled the air around him. "We must use the artifact network to guide and control the risk-seeding. It's our only chance to preserve the essence of each species while allowing the cosmic renewal to occur." The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices, each representative shouting questions and concerns. Steele raised his hand, about to call for order, when his comm unit chirped urgently. "Admiral!" Colonel Sarah Morales' voice cut through the noise. "We've done it. The control node artifact on the ice planet is fully activated. We have unprecedented access to the network's capabilities." Steele's mind raced, processing the implications. He stepped forward, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Silence!" The room fell quiet, all eyes turning to the human admiral. "We stand at the precipice of cosmic change," Steele began, his voice steady and resolute. "Our differences, our conflicts, they mean nothing in the face of this. We must act as one, or we will cease to be at all." He gestured to the hologram of Shepard. "Major Shepard has given us a plan. Colonel Morales has given us the means. Now, we must provide the will." Steele's gaze swept across the assembled leaders. "I propose we form a united front, pool our knowledge, our resources, our very consciousness to guide this risk-seeding. It's not just about survival, but about shaping the very future of our galaxy." One by one, the representatives nodded their agreement. Even General Crackstor, the former enemy, stepped forward. "The Zeraxian fleet stands ready to assist." Steele activated his comm unit. "Hawkins, initiate the multi-user interface system. Link in every willing participant." As Hawkins acknowledged the order, Steele felt a subtle vibration through the floor of the station. The energy surge from the galactic core was intensifying, its effects now tangible even here. "Prepare yourselves," Steele announced. "We're about to attempt something never before done in the history of our galaxy." The assembled leaders moved to specially prepared interface stations around the room. As each connected, their consciousness joined the vast network, guided by Shepard's overarching presence. Steele was the last to connect. As the interface activated, he felt his mind expand, merging with the collective will of the galaxy's greatest minds. Through the shared consciousness, he perceived the vast cosmic forces at work. The receding surged around them, a maelstrom of creation and destruction. Stars collapsed and were reborn. Planets shifted their orbits, and the very fabric of space-time buckled and warped. But they were not helpless observers. With the power of the artifact network at their command, the United Galactic Consciousness began to exert influence. Guided by Shepard's understanding and powered by the control node on the ice planet, they reached out to shape the chaos. Steele felt the strain of the effort, his mind stretched to its limits as he helped direct the cosmic energies. Through their combined will, they created pockets of stability, preserving key systems and worlds. They shepherded the formation of new stars and planets, laying the groundwork for a reborn galaxy. As the intensity of the receding began to wane, Steele became aware of new sensations filtering through the shared consciousness. Reports from across the galaxy streamed in, painting a picture of the transformed cosmos. The first images of new star systems formed from the remnants of old filled Steele with a sense of awe. Planets realigned into more stable configurations, and pockets of protected space emerged, preserved by their efforts. Slowly, carefully, Steele began to disengage from the interface. As he did, he saw the other leaders doing the same, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. The hologram of Shepard flickered back to life in the center of the room. Despite the obvious toll on his body, there was a light of triumph in his eyes. "We did it," Shepard said, his voice weak but filled with emotion. "The receding has been guided. The galaxy is forever changed, but life will continue." Steele stepped forward, addressing the assembled leaders once more. "What we've accomplished here today is nothing short of miraculous, but our work is a long way to go. We must now turn our attention to the task of rebuilding, of exploring this new galaxy we've helped to shape." As the council members nodded in agreement, already beginning to discuss plans for reconstruction and exploration, Steele's calm unit chirped once more. It was a message from the UESF Retribution. "Admiral," Dr. Aaron Morales' voice came through, "you need to see this."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.